President Trump says he fired Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. What's behind his decision and her response? President Trump says America will not be the piggy bank or doormat of the world any longer, while criticizing digital taxes, plus trade updates from China, Japan, and India. Australia is giving Iran's ambassador 7 days to leave the country. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said Iran was behind 2 anti-Semitic attacks on Jewish targets. Details on the decision. A massive dust storm hits Arizona, cutting power to tens of thousands and halting flights in Phoenix. How the towering wall dust known as Haboob brought the city to a standstill.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Today is Tuesday, August 26th. I'm Alice Tang. A shakeup at the Federal Reserve. President Trump says he has fired Federal Governor Lisa Cook over alleged improprieties in mortgage loans. In a letter posted to social media, Trump accused Cook of deceitful and potentially criminal conduct tied to her mortgage applications. The allegations stem from claims that Cook declared 2 separate homes as her primary residence when applying for loans in Michigan and Georgia. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pulte referred the matter to the Justice Department earlier this month. President Biden appointed Cook in 2022. In an email statement to the Associated Press, Cook said she would not step down, saying Trump had no cause or authority to fire her. Trade is in the focus across Asia this week. A senior negotiator from China heads to Washington. The U.S. and Japan are finalizing a $550 billion investment deal. Plus, new American tariffs are hitting India exports. Our NTD's Daniel Monahan brings us up to the speed.
Senior Chinese trade negotiator Li Chenggong is expected in Washington this week to meet U.S. officials. Li may hold deputy-level talks with U.S. counterparts. Reuters reports the visit is not part of formal negotiations. Businesses on both sides of the Pacific are watching closely to see whether the latest tariff extension will become permanent. The two countries agreed on August 11th to extend their tariff truce for another 90 days, keeping U.S. duties of 30% on Chinese imports and Chinese duties of 10% on American goods.
In another trade development, President Trump Monday threatened to restrict U.S. chip exports and impose additional tariffs on imports from countries that refuse to eliminate digital taxes.
In a Truth Social post, Trump said digital market regulations imposed by other countries were intended to harm or discriminate against American technology. Trump said the countries, quote, also outrageously give a complete pass to China's largest tech companies. This must end and end now. The president urged countries that have such taxes to show respect to America and what he called its amazing tech companies or face the consequences. Trump wrote that America and American technology companies are neither the piggy bank nor the doormat of the world any longer. Many countries, especially in Europe, have levied taxes on the sales revenue of digital service providers, including Alphabet's Google, Meta's Facebook, Apple, and Amazon. Turning to Japan, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the United States will make an announcement this week on Japan's $550 billion investment in the U.S. A top Japanese trade envoy is planning to visit Washington this week to formalize the package. Lutnick discussed the deal on Fox News.
We need to make semiconductors in America. We need to make antibiotics in America. We need the rare earths in America, and that's exactly what the Trump administration is all about. So the Japanese agreement, which we're going to announce later this week, that's $550 billion at the hand of Donald Trump, and he can go invest it to hit all these points.
Lutnick says the $50 billion allocated under the 2022 CHIPS Act to cover some of those areas is just too small.
We need hundreds of billions of dollars of semiconductor investment in America, and the Trump administration and Donald Trump is going to bring that home. You watch us do it. We're going to bring it home.
Washington and Tokyo agreed in July to set a reduced 15% tariff on imports from Japan in exchange for a $550 billion package of U.S. investment. And in India, exporters are bracing for disruptions after Washington confirmed it would impose an additional 25% tariff on all Indian origin goods from Wednesday.
Indian exports will face U.S. duties of up to 50% after President Trump announced extra tariffs as punishment for New Delhi's purchases of Russian oil. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
And a trade update. Indonesia says the United States has agreed in principle to exempt its exports of cocoa, palm oil, and rubber from the 19% tariff imposed since August 7th.
We have submitted the documentation to the U.S., so now we are waiting for what is their response. But during the meeting, basically, the principle has been agreed. That is for product that is not produced in the U.S., such as palm oil, cacao, rubber. For that will be zero or close to zero.
Indonesia says the exemption will take effect once both sides reach a final pact. Another trade discussion concerning Indonesia is potential U.S. investment in fuel storage in the country. The region's largest economy was among the first nations to strike a tariff deal with Trump in July, but Jakarta ended up facing the same rate as some other countries, such as Thailand and Malaysia, and just below Vietnam's figure of 20%. President Trump met with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung yesterday. The leaders discussed plans to revive America's shipbuilding industry and launch a joint energy project in Alaska. Trump also issued new warnings to China over trade and national security. Mariotto tells us more from the White House.
We're going to be buying ships from South Korea.
President Trump meeting with South Korean President Lee less than a month after South Korea proposed a $150 billion investment plan called Make American Shipbuilding Great Again.
They build them very well in South Korea, but we're also going to have them make ships here with our people. You can take a look at World War II in particular, where we were doing virtually a ship a day.
South Korea's finance minister saying in July that the goal of this project is to help rebuild America's shipbuilding industry by using Korea's expertise in the sector. Meanwhile, President Trump is also announcing a joint energy venture in Alaska.
You need oil and we have it.
Criticizing wind and solar, saying they don't work and take up valuable farmland.
God was very good to us. He gave us the greatest. We didn't use it. We have more oil and gas and coal and energy than any other country in the world by far.
The president says that the U.S. will supply South Korea with oil from Alaska and that Japan is also, quote, very strongly involved.
You know, it seems like quite far away, Alaska, but actually it's right up the little ocean, right up the little Pacific Ocean.
And on China, President Trump is saying that China controls a monopoly on magnets, which are crucial for aircraft parts and national security.
But we have a much more powerful thing, that's tariffs. If we want to put 100%, 200% tariffs on, we wouldn't do any business with China. And, you know, it would be okay, too, if we had to.
The president says that the U.S. held back Boeing jet parts from China until China agreed to supply the U.S. with magnets.
You know, they had 200 jets that didn't fly. I sent them all of the parts so their planes can fly. But the magnet situation, we have tremendous power over them, and they have some power over us.
Talk about shipbuilding and trade is happening amid a larger conversation about peace on the Korean Peninsula.
And I would like to ask for your role in establishing peace on the Korean Peninsula. So I look forward to your meeting with Chairman Kim Jong-un. I hope that you will usher in a new era of peace on the Korean Peninsula.
I will do that, and we'll have talks. He'd like to meet with me.
With President Lee saying that he believes President Trump is the only world leader who has been able to end global wars. Reporting from the White House, Mariotsu, NTD News.
2 Korean companies announced major investments in the U.S. Korean Air says it plans to buy 103 airplanes from Boeing. It's also purchasing engines and a maintenance program from GE Aerospace and CFM International. The total price tag is $50 billion. Hyundai Motor Group says it is increasing its investment in the U.S. from $21 billion to $26 billion. Earlier yesterday, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung met with President Donald Trump in the Oval Office. Business officials from Korea and U.S. companies were also in attendance. All told, Korean businesses are expected to invest $150 billion in the U.S. It's not clear if that is in addition to the $350 billion investment South Korea announced last month, or if it is part of that number. President Trump signs executive orders aiming to end cashless bail across the country and increase penalties for burning the American flag. Our Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
When somebody kills somebody, they go in, don't worry about it, no cash, come back in a couple of months. We'll give you a trial. You never see the person again.
President Trump signing multiple executive orders on Monday aiming to end cashless bail. One order seeks to revoke federal funding to states that have cashless bail. Another ends cashless bail in Washington, D.C., and those arrested in D.C. will now be held in federal custody rather than city jail.
All over the country, cashless bail, we're ending it, but we're starting by ending it in D.C., and that we have the right to do through federalization.
Cashless bail allows suspects charged with crimes to be released from jail without posting bail. Now, certain crimes are exempt from this, like murder or armed assault, but some say bail disadvantages the poor, who can't afford it and may lose their jobs while waiting for trial behind bars. But others say that it's necessary because without posting bail, there's no incentive for suspects to return to court, as bail money is refunded after the case concludes.
Because this is what bail is. Remember, it's a guarantee that you will show up for court. It's your pledge through money that you will go through the legal system. And without that cash bail, you have no reason to participate. You can just stay hidden and evade.
In 2023, Illinois became the only state to eliminate cash bail across the board. Other states like New Jersey, New York, and New Mexico have eliminated cash bail for certain misdemeanors and nonviolent felonies. And at the same time, President Trump signed another executive order, cracking down on those that burn the American flag. It directs the Attorney General Pam Bondi to prosecute those found desecrating the flag. It also directs the State Department and Homeland Security to deny and revoke visas, resident permits, or any other immigration benefits to those convicted of defacing the flag.
If you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing, and you will see flag burning stopping immediately.
Burning the American flag was outlawed in 1968 after people were burning the flag in protest of the Vietnam War. But just 20 years later, the Supreme Court overturned that law in a 5-4 ruling, declaring the act of flag desecration as a protected symbol of free speech. Protesters burned American flags most recently in the Los Angeles riots in June after Trump ordered the National Guard to the region. Reporting by Jack Bradley, NTD News.
A man was arrested yesterday after burning an American flag in front of the White House. The man was identified as 20-year-old combat veteran Jay Carey, who says he did it to protest against President Trump. Secret Service officers doused the burning flame with a fire extinguisher before arresting him. Park Police, who has jurisdiction over the area, says the arrest comes from illegally lighting a fire on land controlled by the National Park Service, except in designated areas. The incident came just hours after Trump signed an executive order enacting stricter penalties for flag burning. Should burning the American flag be protected under the First Amendment? NTD Sam Wong was out on the National Mall in D.C. to hear from the people.
Do you think flag burning should be legal?
Absolutely not. That is asinine. We live in America, and that flag stands for what we have, and it should not be legal.
There's other means to protest if you have differences for whatever it is. That's really all it is, just respect.
I think we have to maintain free speech and people have to have a right to express themselves. Having said that, is it ethically and morally right when you stand here around all these monuments for people who fought for our freedom? That makes it upsetting, but I don't think illegal.
For somebody to burn flags, I think it should be considered a criminal act. For all the men and women who, like myself, I followed in their footsteps, who signed a piece of paper to say I'm willing to die for people who hate me, people who love me, people who will never know anything about me. My dad did the same thing.
My dad was a Marine in World War II. I have his flag. I have my grandfather's flag from World War I. I don't think the people that are doing that are educated enough on the history of the country and the flag.
In the past couple of years, we've seen protests turning into violence, and then there are people who are trying to express their anger. by burning the American flag. And then some people are saying that, we're perhaps being too lenient on that. What are your thoughts on it?
I think I think it's their right. I think if it keeps it from breaking out in other violence in protests, then that might be the concession we have to make.
That should not be allowed, and if you're going to do that, you're going to suffer the consequences.
I don't think someone should be criminalized for it. I think it's just kind of a sticky road to travel on, really, because you can preach what you want because of our First Amendment, but I think there are moral obligations behind it.
I don't like punishing people who live in a free country. However, once again, give me a good reason why you're burning the flag. Put them somewhere where they got to go somewhere where they're oppressed by a nation besides this one, and then tell me how you feel about that flag.
And I understand people want their freedom of speech, but we don't burn the flag that all these memorials represent, right? Vietnam, they fought for their freedom, and that's the flag. So we don't burn the flag. If you don't like it, get out of this country and go to a country that you like then.
President Trump signed a new proclamation honoring the U.S. service members killed in a suicide bombing in Afghanistan. It comes on the 4th anniversary of the attack of Kabul.
We remember these great 13 souls, but we also remember the people that were so badly injured, our soldiers, 32 of them approximately.
Trump has surrounded yesterday by families of the 13 Americans who died in the 2021 bombing. The tragedy happened outside the Abbey Gate of Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul. More than 100 Afghans also died. Trump said what happened that day was a big lesson and that it won't happen again. A massive dust storm hits Arizona, cutting power to tens of thousands and halting flights in Phoenix. How the towering wall of dust known as Habub brought the city to a standstill. A rare flesh-eating parasite called Screwworm has been detected in a patient in Maryland. What officials are saying about the risk of infection.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big.
Call 800-210-9106. 800-210-9106.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and Your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
Great to have you back. A massive dust storm has swept across Arizona. A towering wall of dust known as a haboob rolled through Metro Phoenix yesterday, bringing the city to a standstill. The storm was followed by strong winds and rain, knocking down trees and leaving widespread damage. At the peak of the storm, poweroutage.com.us showed more than 60,000 customers lost electricity across Arizona, most of them in Maricopa County. Flights at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport were temporarily grounded as the dust cloud swept over the runways. Drivers were warned to pull aside to stay off the roads as visibility dropped to nearly nothing. The National Weather Service says haboobs are common during Arizona's monsoon season, forming when collapsing thunderstorms blast desert soil into giant walls of dust. Wildfires are raging in California's Napa Valley and across parts of Oregon. In California, the picket fire is threatening homes and vineyards. And in Oregon, the flat fire has destroyed homes and forced over 1,000 residents to evacuate. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
In Napa County, California, the picket fire has scorched more than 6,800 acres since breaking out last Thursday. The blaze is threatening about 500 structures in an area known for its wineries and hot springs. Roughly 150 residents have been ordered to evacuate, while another 360 are under warnings near Etna Springs and Pope Valley. Crews are battling difficult conditions in rugged terrain, with some firefighters flown in and helicopters working overnight, according to CAL FIRE. Officials say challenges are on the steeper sections of the fire where rolling material could spark new flames.
Holding is going to be an issue with the potential for rollout in there. Again, with how steep it is, there's still a threat for rolling material to ignite fire below should it come rolling out of the containment area. Crews are actively engaged in there, continuing to mop up, patrol, strengthen, and improve all those areas.
The Bay Area District has also issued an air quality advisory through Wednesday, warning of potentially unhealthy smoke in Napa, Sonoma, and Solano counties. Crews are also putting protective equipment in place around local vineyards. Meanwhile, in Oregon, the flat fire has burned nearly 22,000 acres across Jefferson and Deschutes counties. At least 10 structures, including 4 homes, have been destroyed. About 4,000 homes remain under evacuation notices as crews fight to gain control, with containment at just 5%. The American Red Cross has opened shelters to help displaced families. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. Christina Corona, NTD News.
A rare flesh-eating parasite called screwworm has been detected in a patient in Maryland. Health officials say it's the first travel-related case involving a human in the U.S. Here's more.
A rare flesh-eating parasite called the screwworm has been detected in the United States. Health officials say it's the first travel-related case involving a human. The Maryland Department of Health says the patient has recovered from the infestation, and there's no evidence the parasite spread to other people or animals. The Department of Health and Human Services says the patient was infected after traveling to El Salvador, but the case has rattled U.S. ranchers. Professor of entomology at North Carolina State University, Max Scott, explains what exactly the screwworm is.
So the screwworm is a blue-green blowfly. It's a bit bigger than a housefly, named after the maggot stage, because it's found in the sort of infested animals, and the screwworm looks like it's sort of screwing itself into the flesh.
Infected animals can die if left untreated.
We tend to associate it with the big livestock, so cattle, horses.
Cattle futures dropped on fears the pest could strike herds. Officials say this is the first human case of travel-associated screwworm infestation ever detected in the United States. The screwworm devastated the American cattle industry for decades until it was largely eradicated in the U.S. in the 1970s. But recent outbreaks in cattle across Central America and Mexico have officials concerned it might be spreading northward once again. Still, experts say the risk to public health is extremely low.
It's not common that people will get infested with these. as I said earlier, it tends to be associated with more poor rural areas in South America.
The Maryland case remains isolated, but the Department of Agriculture is building new defenses. That includes building a sterile fly production facility to control the population. The USDA says this is currently the most effective way to prevent the spread of the screwworm. The department is also taking the help of mounted patrol officers known as tick riders and detector dogs to trace infestations in cattle along the southern border.
California Republicans continue to challenge Governor Newsom's congressional redistricting plan. The state's GOP yesterday filed a second legal challenge against the proposal, which will go before voters as Proposition 50 in November. The lawsuit argues that the plan violates the state's constitution, which requires that maps be drawn by the politically neutral California Citizen Redistricting Commission. Proposition 50 will ask voters to accept a temporary overriding of the independent commission. Newsom and state Democrats say the move is meant to counter efforts in Texas to change maps in Republicans' favor. The Texas plan would strengthen Republicans' position in 5 congressional districts currently held by Democrats. President Trump voiced support for redistricting in the Lone Star State and other Republican states such as Florida and Ohio. And in Utah, a judge has ordered the Republican-controlled legislature to redraw the state's congressional map. The state's current map was adopted in 2021. It divides Salt Lake City County among the state's 4 congressional districts, all of which have since elected Republicans by wide margins. Salt Lake City itself is more Democratic-leaning than the rest of Utah. Judge Deanna Gibson ruled the map unlawful, arguing lawmakers ignored voter-approved safeguards against partisan gerrymandering. Lawmakers now face a September 24th deadline to submit new maps, just months before 2026 election filings begin. Voting rights advocates call the decision a watershed moment, while Republican leaders denounced it as judicial activism. President Trump says Chicago could be the next city for federal efforts to reduce crime, similar to what's happening in Washington, D.C. Our correspondent Jason Blair has the updates on the clampdown on crime by the federal government.
They need help badly. Chicago desperately needs help.
From the Oval Office, President Trump says that he would be able to reduce crime in Chicago similar to Washington, D.C. However, with Chicago, he says he would rather go in after the governor requests it.
I don't like to go in and do it and then have somebody stand up and say what a great job he's doing on crime. And we don't want the military in our state.
However, it doesn't look like Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker will be asking anytime soon.
There is no emergency in Chicago that calls for armed military intervention. What President Trump is doing is unprecedented and unwarranted.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt posted on X that since President Trump's initiative in Washington, violent crime is down 32%. Carjackings are down 86%, homicides are down 60%, and robberies are down 47%. Attorney General Pam Bondi says that 1,007 arrests have been made and 111 guns seized in D.C. since August 7th. The White House also touted that there have been no murders in Washington, D.C. for 11 days, according to statistics by the Washington, D.C. Police Department.
But Washington, D.C. is a very safe city right now. People are going out to dinner. Restaurants are opening. Restaurants that were going to close are now going to stay open.
Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Now to the latest on Kilmar Abrego Garcia. ICE detained the Salvadorian national after he turned himself in yesterday. He's accused of human smuggling and faces possible deportation. NTD's David Lamb reports.
Many are following the case of illegal immigrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's now facing possible deportation to the African country of Uganda.
We've got him under control. He will no longer terrorize our country. He's currently charged with human smuggling, including children. The guy needs to be in prison. He doesn't need to be on the streets.
But on Monday, a judge said she wants to keep Abrego Garcia in the U.S. while she can consider whether officials are violating his due process rights. Abrego Garcia recently rejected a plea deal in which he's accused of human smuggling in the United States. The Department of Homeland Security says that in 2019, Abrego Garcia was found with 2 alleged MS-13 gang members. The 30-year-old was brought back to the U.S. in June after he was deported to his native El Salvador earlier in the year.
I found out how the community has supported me, embraced me with so much love and solidarity, and from day one.
Abrego Garcia has denied the allegations against him and denies that he's a member of MS-13, which the U.S. has labeled a terrorist criminal organization. After Abrego Garcia rejected the plea deal, in which he would have been deported to Costa Rica, he agreed to surrender to immigration authorities in Baltimore.
You know, through a system of liberal courts, he's doing things, but no, we have that under control.
Protesters are demanding his freedom, and his lawyer claims prosecutors are unfairly coercing Abrego Garcia after he rejected the initial plea deal.
Mr. Abrego Garcia has filed a new lawsuit in the Federal District Court for the District of Maryland, challenging his current confinement and challenging deportation to Uganda or to any other country unless and until he's had a fair trial.
White House border czar Tom Homan expects Abrego Garcia to be deported and says he can still briefly spend time with his family in the U.S. David Lamb, NTD News.
The U.S. Coast Guard unloaded a record haul of more than 76,000 pounds of illegal drugs in Port Everglades, Florida yesterday. The drugs included 61,000 pounds of cocaine and 14,000 pounds of marijuana, estimated to be around $473 million in value. According to the Coast Guard, the amount of cocaine offloaded could supply fatal overdoses to the entire population of Florida, or around 23 million people. The drugs were from 19 different interceptions in the Eastern Pacific Ocean and Caribbean Sea between June and mid-August this year. Australia is giving Iran's ambassador 7 days to leave the country. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said Iran was behind 2 anti-Semitic attacks on Jewish targets. Finland is condemning threats by a former Hong Kong leader against Falun Gong practitioners in a Helsinki park. The foreign ministry called the incident unacceptable. We'll be back.
When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without a high school diploma. My name is Ariel, and my entire life changed when I took a chance and I got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges.
So Ariel, we made this yearbook for you. It has notes from all the people that are here. Your achievement has set an example for so many students. Most importantly, your daughter.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is me? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. Yeah, you even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, Backpack Kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutVaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Being a cowboy, well,
I don't know anything different from when I was 3 or 4 years old. I did tough things. I thought everybody needed to do tough things, and if you didn't, I didn't have time for it. I had a very successful career at a very young age, and life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally on the inside. And then I got hurt. I wanted to be better as a person, and I really dug into mental health. I start my day with 20-minute workouts. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Horses are so therapeutic. They know what you're feeling. When you're nervous, they're nervous. You won't say it back, but we're pals. I take a lot of responsibility in taking care of my kids, my family, being there for them. You're gonna have tough days. Everybody does. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
Welcome back. A shakeup at the Federal Reserve. President Trump says he has fired Federal Governor Lisa Cook over alleged improprieties in mortgage loans. In a letter posted to social media, Trump accused Cook of deceitful and potentially criminal conduct tied to her mortgage applications. The allegations stem from claims that Cook declared 2 separate homes as her primary residence when applying for loans in Michigan and Georgia. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Polte referred the matter to the Justice Department earlier this month. President Trump appointed Cook in 2022. In an emailed statement to the Associated Press, Cook said she would not step down, saying Trump had no cause or authority to fire her. And a trade update, Indonesia says the United States has agreed in principle to exempt its exports of cacao, palm oil, and rubber from the 19% tariff imposed since August 7th.
We have submitted the documentation to the U.S., so now we are waiting for what is their response. But during the meeting, basically, the principle has been agreed. That is for product that is not produced in the U.S., such as palm oil, cacao, rubber. For that, will be 0 or close to 0.
Indonesia says the exemption will take effect once both sides reach a final pact. Another trade discussion concerning Indonesia is potentially U.S. investment in fuel storage in the country. The region's largest economy was among the first nations to strike a tariff deal with Trump in July, but Jakarta ended up facing the same rates as some other countries such as Thailand and Malaysia, and just below Vietnam's figure of 20%. Australia has taken unprecedented action against Iran after intelligence agencies linked Tehran to anti-Semitic arson attacks in Melbourne and Sydney. Prime Minister Albanese announced the expulsion of Iran's ambassador and suspended the operation of Australia's embassy in Tehran. Here's the Prime Minister.
Iran has sought to disguise its involvement through the use of criminal elements being paid here in Australia. This is the case that this is the most serious response that any Australian government has given.
We are all disgusted to learn of the serious and chilling foreign interference which has been perpetrated by the Islamic Republic of Iran on Australian soil.
Australian intelligence linked Iran to an arson attack on a Sydney restaurant last October and the December firebombing of a Melbourne synagogue. Foreign Minister Penny Wong noted that the first time Australia has expelled an ambassador in the post-war period. Albanese also confirmed all Australian diplomats were evacuated safely before the decision was announced. The government will now formally designate Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. Protests spread through Israel today. Demonstrators are demanding the return of hostages still held in Gaza and an end to the conflict. Protesters blocked traffic at a major road in central Israel with burning tires. The demonstrations are part of a nationwide day of disruption. Israelis, in support of families of hostages held in Gaza, are calling on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to reach an agreement with the Hamas terror group to end the war and release the remaining captives. A rally planned outside Israel's defense headquarters later today is expected to draw thousands of people. There are 50 hostages remaining in Gaza. Israel believes around 20 are still living. Staying with the Middle East, a top U.S. diplomat says Lebanon will come up with a plan by the end of this month to convince the Hezbollah terror group to disarm.
What can we do for Hezbollah to show them they don't need to be armed? Nobody wants to go to a civil war. I can tell you Israel's response was historic. What they've said to us personally, what they've said to the president in actuality, and what they've given in a press release to you is they will meet tit for tat in exact cadence.
U.S. Special Envoy for Syria and Lebanon, Thomas Barrack, says Israel will give a counter-proposal when it receives Lebanon's plan. Barrack said the plan Lebanon was preparing could not necessarily involve military action to persuade Hezbollah to give up its weapons. The special envoy says Saudi Arabia and Qatar are ready to invest in an economic zone in the South Lebanon near the border with Israel. The investment would involve creating jobs for members of the terror group and its supporters once they lay down their weapons. Last week, Hezbollah warned the Lebanese government against confronting the Iran-backed group, stating that there would be no life in Lebanon if it did. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said more action is needed if Russian President Vladimir Putin declines a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The Chancellor warns of further economic pressure if Moscow doesn't agree to the talks.
If the Russian president is serious about ending the killing, then he will accept the offer. If the Russian side fails to take this step, then more pressure will be needed. For that case, we in the European Union are working on further sanctions.
He added that President Trump also suggested possibly imposing further tariffs. Merz spoke alongside Zelenskyy and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. The Prime Minister says Zelenskyy is willing to meet Putin anywhere neutral. This means Zelenskyy doesn't expect Putin to come to Kyiv, and he doesn't plan to go to Moscow for the meeting. Finland is responding to threats made by former Hong Kong leader Leung Chun-ying against Falun Gong practitioners in a public park. The Ministry for Foreign Affairs called the incident unfortunate and unacceptable, adding that freedom of assembly and expression are fundamentally rights protected by the Constitution. Days earlier, Leung, Hong Kong's chief executive from 2012 to 2017 and now vice chairman of Communist China's top political advisory body, approached the Falun Gong information booth in a Helsinki park. Practitioners there were collecting signatures to raise awareness about ongoing human rights abuses in China. Leung became confrontational, demanded the names of those present, and vowed to look them up once back in China. Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a spiritual practice that teaches truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. While its practitioners are often seen meditating peacefully in public, in China, they have faced a brutal persecution since 1999. Millions are believed to have suffered abuse, and U.S. authorities have sanctioned CCP officials over their role in the repression. The Maduro regime in Venezuela has ordered a national enlistment process to civilian volunteers into the regime's militias in response to U.S. military presence in the region. Luis Eduardo Martinez has the details.
Nicolás Maduro, the leader of the Venezuelan regime, has ordered a nationwide enlistment process of the civilian population into militias. Some 4.5 million civilians with no military training have allegedly already been deployed in support of the regime's armed forces in response to the deployment of 3 U.S. destroyers and 4,000 Marines to the South Caribbean Sea to combat cartel operations in Latin America. Nicolás Maduro has also touted his close relationships with the Chinese Communist Party. During an official event last week, Maduro claimed to have received as a gift a satellite phone from the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, which he allegedly uses to communicate with him frequently.
Yo me comunico por satélite con este. Ni hao, ni hao. Xie xie, xie xie.
Nicolas Maduro has been indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice for narco-terrorism and drug trafficking. The Department of Justice is also offering a $50 million reward for information leading to the capture of Nicolas Maduro, the highest ever ransom offered by the DOJ for an indicted criminal.
Look, I think all the steps that the administration has taken indicate that President Trump is not happy with the illegitimate regime of Nicolas Maduro. There is a legitimate government that's waiting to take, power, which Nicolas Maduro, the narco trafficker, the head of a terrorist organization, is actually holding Venezuela, for ransom.
It is important to note the United States has only indicted 3 foreign heads of state. Manuel Antonio Noriega of Panama, who was captured by the United States during Operation Just Cause in January of 1990. Juan Orlando Hernandez, former president of Honduras, who was extradited to the United States in 2024 after leaving office. And Nicolas Maduro of the Venezuelan regime. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
An electric train has set a new world record. The achievement marks the longest distance traveled in a single charge. Germans' jockeys ride oxen during an event in Bulgaria. Competitors race their animals to the finish line while attendees bet on their favorite ox. We'll be back.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9. The highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritang green vegetable omega-3.
Divinely inspired traditional oil painting inspires compassion. Artwork created in truth and beauty illuminates a path to goodness. Rediscover traditional art, revive classical culture. We warmly invite oil painters from around the world to participate in the 7th NTD International Figure Painting Competition, a celebration of classical realism. Please visit oilpainting.ntdtv.com.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Check this out. An electric vehicle has set a world record for the longest distance traveled in a single charge. The battery-powered railroad cars made a 200-mile journey overnight in the south of England. Andrew Thomas has the details.
On August 20th, this train pulled into the UK's Reading train care depot. Powered entirely by batteries, it made a lengthy journey without recharging along the way.
Today, we've broken the record for the longest distance travelled on a single charge by a battery train. We've done just over 200 miles, and that's broken the record by quite some distance overnight. It's an important achievement for the UK rail industry to be able to do that, because it demonstrates the viability of battery technology to power trains in the future.
Great Western Railway has been testing its fast-charging technology. But Green said the trip marked proof of concept.
The purpose of doing our battery train trial in the first place was to demonstrate that the technologies are our Great Westerns and potentially other operators' diesel fleets, which are all 30 plus years old now, with something that's not powered by diesel.
But to tackle the world record, the focus was not on speed, but on maximizing battery charging capability.
We had to make sure that the auxiliary loads, so the things that use energy that are not just driving the train along, were kept to a bare minimum. And we needed to understand what is the bare minimum and what does that mean?
The train traveled at an average of around 35 to 38 miles per hour, ideal for an efficient battery charge. At the end of the journey, the 6 batteries still had some charge left, maybe enough to cover another 60 miles, but engineers had to make some sacrifices.
So definitely no heating or cooling on. Lights we debated over for a bit, but in the end lighting was worth about 5 miles, so we thought, yeah, we'll leave that off, and people didn't seem to mind. But those are the key measures.
In the future, the train operator expects to operate around 60 miles of track with battery-powered trains. Officials from the Rail Performance Society confirmed the world record. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
An unusual race in southern Germany. Residents took part in an oxen race in Bavaria on Sunday. The 10th event of its kind. The competition takes place every 4 years, with riders racing their animals to the finish line. Anna Seidel is one of the ox's jockeys. The 33-year-old Bavarian says it's not easy, especially without a saddle.
So you can't compare it to riding a horse. It's really gigantic. The feeling is massive. You have to really push yourself onto the ox so you don't start bouncing. Otherwise, you'll fall off.
The race dates back to 1983. Today, it's a highlight event in Bavaria. The event also features a traditional parade and a festive tent with music and beer. As with horse racing, attendees can place bets on their favorite ox. A cat has captured hearts and is going viral after being adopted by a Chilean police station, becoming an unlikely mascot for the local police force. A feline named Naruto first arrived at the station when officers Christian Guerrero rescued him as he was running away from dogs. Naruto now roams the police office station corridors wearing a tiny police vest, earning him the affectionate nickname General Michi and Cat Burrino. A playful combination of cat and Caberinos, the name of Chile's national police force.
He visits all the offices regularly, so all of us at the 3rd police station have grown very fond of him. People said to me, please make it go viral.
They told us to dress him up. They gave us ideas, everything.
They started giving us ideas, and that's how the nickname Cat Banero came about. The cat serves as a source of comfort for the victims who arrive here. He approaches the victims and people pet him, and he provides comfort. We are very happy because he is a source of support for the victims.
The officer says the feline has become an integral part of the team. Talking about dogs, today marks the biggest day of the year for man's best friend. Today is National Dog Day, right in the middle of Dog Days of Summer. National Dog Day was first observed 2 decades ago by animal rescue advocate and dog trainer Colleen Page. She's founded several animal-oriented recognition days, including National Puppy Day and National Cat Day. Today's date, August 26th, also marks the day her family adopted their first dog from a shelter when Page was just 10 years old. Her message for National Dog Day is to celebrate the impact of dogs on our lives and to encourage the adoption of dogs into forever homes. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at news.today@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'll cover more stories right after this break.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
With almost 4 decades in the spotlight, Cindy Crawford has never lost her stunning glow. With her gorgeous, age-defying skin, US Weekly says, whatever she's doing, it's clearly working. How does her skin still look firm, smooth, and youthful at 59? It's meaningful beauty. And now, with new advanced formulas, it's better than ever, delivering our age-defying ingredients even deeper into the skin to fight wrinkles where they begin. Just wait until you see the difference meaningful beauty can make for you.
Instant hydration, instant plumping. My skin looks amazing. What I'm most proud of is over 5 million women have trusted Meaningful Beauty, and they're getting great results, and I get that feedback from them in airports, supermarkets, walking down the street, and I love it.
And today, we are celebrating 20 years of meaningful beauty with a brand new offer you don't want to miss. You can get the entire advanced Meaningful Beauty system with all 5 age-defying super treatments. And when you order today, you'll receive our Targeted Treatment Duo, a $128 value free. Introducing the Wrinkle Smoothing Capsules to target crow's feet, forehead lines, and lines around your mouth. Plus, you'll also get the new Skin Renewing Facial Tool with heat, massage, and red light to boost the absorption of the wrinkle smoothing capsules and reduce the appearance of puffiness. The Skin Renewing Facial Tool and the Wrinkle Smoothing Capsules together create Meaningful Beauty's amazing targeted treatment duo.
This plus this equals incredible results.
Get all this, a $300 value, for just $49.95. But you must act quickly. Results guaranteed or your money back.
If you haven't tried Meaningful Beauty yet, this new offer is something you don't want to miss.
This special offer is not available in any store, so don't wait. Scan the code, call the number below, or go to meaningfulbeauty.com right now.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. So if you want to talk to your kids, you have to get it trending.
No, you're doing it wrong.
Let's go.
Can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Welcome to NTD News Today. Here are today's top stories. President Trump says he fired Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. What's behind his decision and her response? President Trump says America will not be the piggy bank or doormat of the world any longer, while criticizing digital taxes, plus trade updates from China, Japan, and India. 3 states could lose federal funding if they don't comply with requirements on English proficiency for truckers. How one deadly incident in Florida is spurring the Transportation Department to act. Amid national debate around President Trump's federal action to tackle crime, House lawmakers are probing allegations of manipulated crime data in Washington, D.C.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Today is Tuesday, August 26th. I'm Kevin Hogan. A shakeup at the Federal Reserve. President Trump says he has fired Fed Governor Lisa Cook over alleged improprieties in mortgage loans. In a letter posted to social media, Trump accused Cook of deceitful and potentially criminal conduct tied to her mortgage applications. The allegations stem from claims that Cook declared 2 separate homes as her primary residence when applying for loans in Michigan and Georgia. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pluta referred the matter to the Justice Department earlier this month. President Biden appointed Cook in 2022. In an emailed statement to the Associated Press, Cook said she would not step down, saying Trump had no cause or authority to fire her. Trade is in focus across Asia this week. A senior negotiator from China heads to Washington. The U.S. and Japan are finalizing a $550 billion investment deal, plus new American tariffs are hitting Indian exports. NTD's Daniel Monahan brings us up to speed.
Senior Chinese trade negotiator Li Chenggong is expected in Washington this week to meet U.S. officials. Li may hold deputy-level talks with U.S. counterparts. Reuters reports the visit is not part of formal negotiations. Businesses on both sides of the Pacific are watching closely to see whether the latest tariff extension will become permanent. The two countries agreed on August 11th to extend their tariff truce for another 90 days, keeping U.S. duties of 30% on Chinese imports and Chinese duties of 10% on American goods.
In another trade development, President Trump Monday threatened to restrict U.S. chip exports and impose additional tariffs on imports from countries that refuse to eliminate digital taxes.
In a Truth Social post, Trump said digital market regulations imposed by other countries were intended to harm or discriminate against American technology. Trump said the countries, quote, also outrageously give a complete pass to China's largest tech companies. This must end and end now. The president urged countries that have such taxes to show respect to America and what he called its amazing tech companies or face the consequences. Trump wrote that America and American technology companies are neither the piggy bank nor the doormat of the world any longer. Many countries, especially in Europe, have levied taxes on the sales revenue of digital service providers, including Alphabet's Google, Meta's Facebook, Apple, and Amazon. Turning to Japan, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the United States will make an announcement this week on Japan's $550 billion investment in the U.S. A top Japanese trade envoy is planning to visit Washington this week to formalize the package. Lutnick discussed the deal on Fox News.
We need to make semiconductors in America. We need to make antibiotics in America. We need the rare earths in America, and that's exactly what the Trump administration is all about. So the Japanese agreement, which we're going to announce later this week, that's $550 billion at the hand of Donald Trump, and he can go invest it to hit all these points.
Lutnick says the $50 billion allocated under the 2022 CHIPS Act to cover some of those areas is just too small.
We need hundreds of billions of dollars of semiconductor investment in America, and the Trump administration and Donald Trump is going to bring that home. You watch us do it. We're going to bring it home.
Washington and Tokyo agreed in July to set a reduced 15% tariff on imports from Japan in exchange for a $550 billion package of U.S. investment. And in India, exporters are bracing for disruptions after Washington confirmed it would impose an additional 25% tariff on all Indian origin goods from Wednesday.
Indian exports will face U.S. duties of up to 50% after President Trump announced extra tariffs as punishment for New Delhi's purchases of Russian oil. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
In a trade update, Indonesia says the United States has agreed in principle to exempt its exports of cocoa, palm oil, and rubber from the 19% tariff imposed since August 7th.
We have submitted the documentation to the U.S.
So now we are waiting for what is their response. But during the meeting, basically, the principle has been agreed. That is for product that is not produced in the U.S., such as palm oil, cacao, rubber. For that, will be zero or close to zero.
Indonesia says the exemption will take effect once both sides reach a final pact. Another trade discussion concerning Indonesia is potential U.S. investment in fuel storage in the country. The region's largest economy was among the first nations to strike a tariff deal with Trump in July, but Jakarta ended up facing the same rate as some other countries, such as Thailand and Malaysia, and just below Vietnam's figure of 20%. Critical minerals are in the spotlight today. The U.S. government is moving to add 6 mineral commodities to a list of critical minerals. It's part of efforts to boost domestic production and reduce reliance on foreign suppliers. The U.S. Geological Survey is recommending potash, silicon, copper, silver, rhenium, and lead be added. The updated list will be published in the Federal Register today. At the same time, arsenic, tellurium, previously considered critical, are recommended for removal. If approved, the 2025 critical minerals list will grow to 54 commodities, up from 50 in 2022 and just 35 in 2018. China dominates the processing of at least 30 of the minerals already deemed critical. Since last year, Beijing has tightened exports of several key minerals. And the Department of Transportation is going to enforce English language proficiency requirements for truck drivers. It's specifically targeting Washington State, California, and New Mexico, which have not yet complied with federal rules.
We are going to give these states 30 days to come into compliance with truck drivers speaking proficiently the English language, or we're going to look at federal funding that they receive under the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program. So I believe California is 20 million or 30 million? 30 million. Washington is 10 million, and New Mexico is 7 million.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says that his department will start withholding this money if the 3 states don't comply within 30 days. The DOT will also take additional steps to guarantee compliance if they don't comply. The language rules took effect in June after President Trump signed an executive order, but Duffy says they are significant failures in place that in the way that all 3 states are enforcing the rules. The secretary says this is a safety issue because truckers need to understand road signs and be able to communicate with law enforcement. The issue came into the spotlight after an illegal immigrant trucker killed 3 people after making an illegal U-turn on a Florida highway in August. California Republicans continue to challenge Governor Newsom's congressional redistricting plan. The state GOP yesterday filed a second legal challenge against the proposal, which will go before voters as Proposition 50 in November. The lawsuit argues that the plan violates the state's constitution, which requires that maps be drawn by the politically neutral California Citizens Redistricting Commission. Proposition 50 will ask voters to accept a temporary overriding of the independent commission. Newsom and state Democrats say the move is meant to counter efforts in Texas to change maps in Republicans' favor. The Texas plan would strengthen Republicans' position in 5 congressional districts currently held by Democrats. President Trump voiced support for redistricting in the Lone Star State and other Republican states, such as Florida and Ohio. And in Utah, a judge has ordered the Republican-controlled legislature to redraw the state's congressional map. The state's current map was adopted in 2021. It divides Salt Lake County among the state's 4 congressional districts, all of which have since elected Republicans by wide margins. Salt Lake City itself is more Democratic-leaning than the rest of Utah. Judge Diana Gibson ruled the map unlawful, arguing lawmakers ignored voter-approved safeguards against partisan gerrymandering. Lawmakers now face a September 24th deadline to submit new maps, just months before 2026 election filings begin. Voting rights advocates called the decision a watershed moment, while Republican leaders denounced it as judicial activism. Stay with us. South Korea investing in the U.S. Can it make a difference? And will President Trump meet with Communist leader Kim Jong-un of North Korea to resolve the conflict? A geopolitical analyst joins us to discuss in a moment.
£6 prescription glasses from Select Specs are always great value. There are no offer codes or first-time customers only. Anyone can buy them, anytime. And you can upgrade to Select Specs Express for next day delivery. And with deferred payments, you can spread the cost.
See now, pay later with Select Specs £6 specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options available at selectspecs.com/£6.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big.
Call 800-210-9106, 800-210-9106.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure, natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
Great to have you back with us. Several Fox channels could become unavailable on YouTube TV if the two companies don't reach a deal by tomorrow. Google-owned YouTube said that it's negotiating to renew its deal to carry Fox channels. According to Google, Fox is asking for higher fees than those paid to other partners offering similar content. The video streaming platform said its priority is to ensure a deal that is fair for both companies and that does not pass on additional costs to subscribers. Fox said it was, quote, disappointed that Google continually exploits its outsized influence by proposing terms that are out of step with the marketplace. YouTube has partnerships with content providers such as Fox, Paramount, and CNN. Elon Musk's artificial intelligence startup xAI is suing Apple and OpenAI in federal court. Here are the details.
Elon Musk's xAI is suing Apple and OpenAI over claims they conspired to thwart rivals on artificial intelligence. The suit was filed in a Texas court on Monday. It says the pair locked up markets to maintain their monopolies after Apple integrated OpenAI's ChatGPT into its products. The suit says the partnership led the iPhone maker to promote ChatGPT in its App Store, while limiting prominence for Musk's competing chatbot Grok. In a social media post, Musk said, 1 million reviews with 4.9 average for Grok and still Apple refuses to mention Grok on any lists. Apple didn't respond to a request for comment on the suit, while OpenAI said the case was consistent with what it called Musk's ongoing pattern of harassment. Some legal experts said Apple's dominant position in the smartphone market could bolster xAI's allegation that it was suppressing competition. But Ohio State University law professor Amy Schmitz cast doubt on some of Musk's claims.
The fact remains that Grok is in the App Store, and it has ranked highly in some months. In fact, one report I looked at had it ranked at, I think, #1 on the App Store in February of 2025, which shows that there is competition, right?
Musk co-founded OpenAI with Sam Altman in 2015. Its ChatGPT bot would later become the fastest-growing consumer application in history. But the pair fell out, and Musk went on to found the rival xAI. In a separate case, he's suing the ChatGPT maker over its plan to convert from a non-profit to a for-profit entity.
SpaceX postponed the 10th launch of its Starship rocket yesterday due to cloudy weather in Texas. This marks the second delay in 2 days after a system leak halted a launch on Sunday. SpaceX said the latest mission will target goals similar to previous Starship missions, as well as seeking to expand the operational limits of Starship's Super Heavy booster. Development of SpaceX's next-generation rocket is key to the company's powerful launch business, as well as owner Elon Musk's goal to send humans to Mars. NASA also hopes to use the rocket as soon as 2027 for its first crewed moon landing since the Apollo program. SpaceX will be attempting another launch today at 7:30 p.m. local time. Thousands more emails related to the 2022 Robb Elementary School massacre in Uvalde, Texas, will be released. A lawyer admitted at a school board meeting last night that a mistake had been made in withholding them. The board of the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District voted weeks ago to release the public records related to the attack. Board members stressed they played no part in the records not being released. The May 2022 school shooting was the worst in a decade, where 19 students and 2 teachers were killed. Hundreds of law enforcement officers waited outside the classrooms for more than an hour, while dead, dying, and traumatized victims were left with the gunman. President Trump recently tasked the Commerce Department with finding a way to exclude illegal immigrants from the population count for the next census. NTD's Arlene Richards spoke to an expert who said if the change is successful, it could benefit Republicans.
President Trump recently directed the Department of Commerce to begin work on a new U.S. census that excludes illegal immigrants from the population count. An expert from a national demographics company said Trump can't dictate that change.
It's one thing for the president to say he wants to do something. It's another to come up with how that would be done. So, the president doesn't have the authority to do it just by dictate.
Douglas Johnson, a demographics expert who specializes in election district plans, said there would have to be a law passed or a court case won in order for the president to get what he wants. Trump's directive came in the midst of the redistricting battle in Texas before the map was eventually approved. Johnson said if illegal immigrants were excluded from the next census, Republicans would benefit.
Probably there's one city each would be California, Illinois, New York, and possibly Rhode Island. So all those are heavily Democratic states, obviously. The wins are less clear, but probably Ohio, maybe Minnesota, and probably Utah. So Minnesota would probably be a Democratic state would lose a seat to a Democratic state. But the other two, Ohio and Utah, would likely be Democratic states losing a seat to a Republican state.
With the recent battle over redrawing congressional maps in Texas and California, it's unclear whether the president is hoping to make the change before the 2026 midterms. Johnson said it's extremely unlikely.
Maybe there could be some reconsideration of 2020 data if he could get a friendly court ruling. to allow that, but that would likely not kick in until 2028.
To watch the complete interview, including Johnson's views on impacts to federal funding and errors in the 2020 census, go to our website at ntd.com. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School, college first-round draft pick. On and off the field, we were taught to not show any signs of weakness. During the football season, I would stop eating, but I didn't know I was depressed. I thought that something was wrong with me. For 20 plus years was physical. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father, as a man, and as a husband. Put the importance on your mental health. I'm not scared to talk about it anymore. The first tool is therapy. The second one is positive self-talk. And then journaling, putting your thoughts on paper. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
Welcome back. The Maduro regime in Venezuela has ordered a national enlistment process of civilian volunteers into the regime's militias in response to U.S. military presence in the region. NTD's Luis Eduardo Martinez has the details.
Nicolás Maduro, the leader of the Venezuelan regime, has ordered a nationwide enlistment process of the civilian population into militias. Some 4.5 million civilians with no military training have allegedly already been deployed in support of the regime's armed forces in response to the deployment of 3 U.S. destroyers and 4,000 Marines to the South Caribbean Sea to combat cartel operations in Latin America. Nicolás Maduro has also touted his close relationships with the Chinese Communist Party. During an official event last week, Maduro claimed to have received as a gift a satellite phone from the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, which he allegedly uses to communicate with him frequently.
Yo me comunico por satélite con este. Ni hao, ni hao. Xie xie, xie xie.
Nicolas Maduro has been indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice for narco-terrorism and drug trafficking. The Department of Justice is also offering a $50 million reward for information leading to the capture of Nicolas Maduro, the highest ever ransom offered by the DOJ for an indicted criminal.
Look, I think all the steps that the administration has taken indicate that President Trump is not happy with the illegitimate regime of Nicolas Maduro. There is a legitimate government that's waiting to take, power, which Nicolas Maduro, the narco trafficker, the head of a terrorist organization, is actually holding Venezuela, for ransom.
It is important to note that the United States has only indicted 3 foreign heads of state. Manuel Antonio Noriega of Panama, who was captured by the United States during Operation Just Cause in January of 1990. Juan Orlando Hernandez, former president of Honduras, who was extradited to the United States in 2024 after leaving office. And Nicolas Maduro of the Venezuelan regime. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Finland is responding to threats made by former Hong Kong leader Leung Chun-ying against Falun Gong practitioners in a public park. The Ministry for Foreign Affairs called the incident unfortunate and unacceptable, adding that freedom of assembly and expression are fundamental rights protected by the Constitution. Days earlier, Leung, Hong Kong's chief executive from 2012 to 2017 and now vice chairman of Communist China's top political advisory body, approached a Falun Gong information booth in a Helsinki park. Practitioners there were collecting signatures to raise awareness about ongoing human rights abuses in China. Leung became confrontational, demanded the names of those present, and vowed to look them up once back in China. Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a spiritual practice that teaches truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. While its practitioners are often seen meditating peacefully in public, in China, they have faced a brutal persecution since 1999. Millions are believed to have suffered abuse, and U.S. authorities have sanctioned CCP officials over their role in the repression. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says more action is needed if Russian President Vladimir Putin declines a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The chancellor warns of further economic pressure if Moscow doesn't agree to the talks.
If the Russian president is serious about ending the killing, then he will accept the offer. If the Russian side fails to take this step, then more pressure will be needed. For that case, we in the European Union are working on further sanctions.
He added that President Trump also suggested possibly imposing further tariffs. Merz spoke alongside Zelenskyy and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. The Prime Minister says Zelenskyy is willing to meet Putin anywhere neutral. This means Zelenskyy doesn't expect Putin to come to Kyiv, and he doesn't plan to go to Moscow for the meeting. President Trump met with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung yesterday. The leaders discussed plans to revive America's shipbuilding industry and launch a joint energy project in Alaska. Trump also issued new warnings to China over trade and national security. Mario Tsu tells us more from the White House.
We're going to be buying ships from South Korea.
President Trump meeting with South Korean President Lee less than a month after South Korea proposed a $150 billion investment plan called Make American Shipbuilding Great Again.
They build them very well in South Korea, but we're also going to have them make ships here with our people. You can take a look at World War II in particular, where we were doing virtually a ship a day.
South Korea's finance minister saying in July that the goal of this project is to help rebuild America's shipbuilding industry by using Korea's expertise in the sector. Meanwhile, President Trump is also announcing a joint energy venture in Alaska.
You need oil and we have it.
Criticizing wind and solar, saying they don't work and take up valuable farmland.
God was very good to us. He gave us the greatest. We didn't use it. We have more oil and gas and coal and energy than any other country in the world by far.
The president says that the U.S. will supply South Korea with oil from Alaska and that Japan is also, quote, very strongly involved.
You know, it seems like quite far away, Alaska, but actually it's right up the little ocean, right up the little Pacific Ocean.
And on China, President Trump is saying that China controls a monopoly on magnets, which are crucial for aircraft parts and national security.
But we have a much more powerful thing, that's tariffs. If we want to put 100%, 200% tariffs on, we wouldn't do any business with China. And, you know, it would be okay, too, if we had to.
The president says that the U.S. held back Boeing jet parts from China until China agreed to supply the U.S. with magnets.
You know, they had 200 jets that didn't fly. I sent them all of the parts so their planes can fly. But the magnet situation, we have tremendous power over them, and they have some power over us.
Talk about shipbuilding and trade is happening amid a larger conversation about peace on the Korean Peninsula.
And I would like to ask for your role in establishing peace on the Korean Peninsula. So I look forward to your meeting with Chairman Kim Jong-un. I hope that you will usher in a new era of peace on the Korean Peninsula.
I will do that, and we'll have talks. He'd like to meet with me.
With President Lee saying that he believes President Trump is the only world leader who has been able to end global wars. Reporting from the White House, Mario Tsu, NTD News.
2 Korean companies announced major investments in the U.S. Korean Air says it plans to buy 103 airplanes from Boeing. It's also purchasing engines and a maintenance program from GE Aerospace and CFM International. The total price tag is $50 billion. Hyundai Motor Group says it is increasing its investment in the U.S. from $21 billion to $26 billion. Earlier yesterday, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung met with President Donald Trump in the Oval Office. Business officials from Korean and U.S. companies were also in attendance. All told, Korean businesses are expected to invest $150 billion in the U.S. It's not clear if that's in addition to the $350 billion investment South Korea announced last month, or if it was part of that number. And up ahead, a top U.S. diplomat says Lebanon will soon present a plan to convince Hezbollah to disarm. One plan is backed by Saudi and Qatari investments and involves giving jobs to the terror group's fighters. France could be headed for an early election. The French Prime Minister faces a September 8th confidence vote after opposition parties rejected his $50 billion budget cut plan. All that for you in a moment.
I didn't ask to lose my mother or to be abused at 5 years old. I didn't ask to be kicked out of my house with nowhere to go. I just can't. I'm so sorry. I didn't ask for any of this. But I did ask for help, and Covenant House was there. Thanks to their love and support, and to generous people like you, I got what I needed to take control of my life.
For the young people who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations, Covenant House is there providing safety, hope, and a brighter future. Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. 1 in 10 young adults will experience homelessness this year. Your gift can help reach them when they need it most.
I didn't ask for my parents and my family to disown me. I didn't ask to end up in a homeless shelter. The beauty of it all is that I found Covenant House.
The need is overwhelming, but your monthly support will make sure no young person is ever turned away. Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today. If there's no Covenant House, where would I be today?
Your monthly gift is urgently needed to reach young people in communities like yours who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations. Show them they're loved and not alone. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
I'm Kevin Hogan, and this is World Watch. Australia has taken unprecedented action against Iran. It comes after intelligence agencies linked Tehran to anti-Semitic arson attacks in Melbourne and Sydney. Prime Minister Albanese announced the expulsion of Iran's ambassador and suspended the operation of Australia's embassy in Tehran. Here's the Prime Minister.
Iran has sought to disguise its involvement through the use of criminal elements being paid here in Australia. This is the case that this is the most serious response that any Australian government has given.
We are all disgusted to learn of the serious and chilling foreign interference which has been perpetrated by the Islamic Republic of Iran on Australian soil.
Australian intelligence linked Iran to an arson attack on a Sydney restaurant last October and the December firebombing of a Melbourne synagogue. Foreign Minister Penny Wong noted it's the first time Australia has expelled an ambassador in the post-war period. Albanese also confirmed that all Australian diplomats were evacuated safely before the decision was announced. The government will now formally designate Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. Also in Australia, a manhunt is underway as police search for a gunman who shot and killed 2 officers and wounded another. The shooter opened fire as officers tried to serve a warrant in rural Victoria. Victoria's police commissioner said 10 officers were met with gunfire at a property northeast of Melbourne. He urged residents to stay inside while police search for the gunman. A wide-ranging search is ongoing with footage showing helicopters and police dogs in the area. Police believe the suspect is armed. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says Germany will not recognize a Palestinian state at next month's United Nations General Assembly. Merz was speaking at a joint news conference today with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Carney said last month that Canada planned to recognize Palestine as a nation at the EU meeting. The decision follows similar announcements from France and Britain. To the Middle East, a top U.S. diplomat says Lebanon will come up with a plan by the end of this month to convince the Hezbollah terror group to disarm.
What can we do for Hezbollah to show them they don't need to be armed? Nobody wants to go to a civil war. I can tell you Israel's response was historic. What they've said to us personally, what they've said to the president in actuality, and what they've given in a press release to you is they will meet tit for tat in exact cadence.
U.S. Special Envoy for Syria and Lebanon, Thomas Barak, says Israel will give a counter-proposal when it receives Lebanon's plan. Barak said that Lebanon was prepared would not necessarily involve military action to persuade Hezbollah to give up its weapons. The Special Envoy says Saudi Arabia and Qatar are ready to invest in an economic zone in southern Lebanon near the border with Israel. The investment would involve creating jobs for members of the terror group and its supporters once they lay down their weapons. And France could face an early election next month. Prime Minister François Bayrou has called a confidence vote after opposition parties rejected his proposed budget cuts. The September 8th vote in the National Assembly will determine his government's fate. The National Rally, France Unbowed, the Greens, and the Socialists have all said they cannot support the reforms. Bayrou's plan calls for more than $50 billion in cuts as France's deficit nears some percent of GDP, nearly double the EU's 3% limit. And trade is in the focus across Asia. This week, a senior negotiator from China heads to Washington. The U.S. and Japan are finalizing a $550 billion investment deal, plus new American tariffs are hitting Indian exports. NTD's Daniel Monahan brings us up to speed.
Senior Chinese trade negotiator Li Chenggong is expected in Washington this week to meet U.S. officials. Li may hold deputy-level talks with U.S. counterparts. Reuters reports the visit is not part of formal negotiations. Businesses on both sides of the Pacific are watching closely to see whether the latest tariff extension will become permanent. The two countries agreed on August 11th to extend their tariff truce for another 90 days, keeping U.S. duties of 30% on Chinese imports and Chinese duties of 10% on American goods.
In another trade development, President Trump Monday threatened to restrict U.S. chip exports and impose additional tariffs on imports from countries that refuse to eliminate digital taxes.
In a Truth Social post, Trump said digital market regulations imposed by other countries were intended to harm or discriminate against American technology. Trump said the countries, quote, also outrageously give a complete pass to China's largest tech companies. This must end and end now. The president urged countries that have such taxes to show respect to America and what he called its amazing tech companies or face the consequences. Trump wrote that America and American technology companies are neither the piggy bank nor the doormat of the world any longer. Many countries, especially in Europe, have levied taxes on the sales revenue of digital service providers, including Alphabet's Google, Meta's Facebook, Apple, and Amazon. Turning to Japan, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the United States will make an announcement this week on Japan's $550 billion investment in the U.S. A top Japanese trade envoy is planning to visit Washington this week to formalize the package. Lutnick discussed the deal on Fox News.
We need to make semiconductors in America. We need to make antibiotics in America. We need the rare earths in America, and that's exactly what the Trump administration is all about. So the Japanese agreement, which we're going to announce later this week, that's $550 billion at the hand of Donald Trump, and he can go invest it to hit all these points.
Lutnick says the $50 billion allocated under the 2022 CHIPS Act to cover some of those areas is just too small.
We need hundreds of billions of dollars of semiconductor investment in America, and the Trump administration and Donald Trump is going to bring that home. You watch us do it. We're going to bring it home.
Washington and Tokyo agreed in July to set a reduced 15% tariff on imports from Japan in exchange for a $550 billion package of U.S. investment. And in India, exporters are bracing for disruptions after Washington confirmed it would impose an additional 25% tariff on all Indian origin goods from Wednesday.
Indian exports will face U.S. duties of up to 50% after President Trump announced extra tariffs as punishment for New Delhi's purchases of Russian oil. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Two Korean companies announced major investments in the U.S. Korean Air says it plans to buy 103 airplanes from Boeing. It's also purchasing engines and a maintenance program from GE Aerospace and CFM International. The total price tag is $50 billion. Hyundai Motor Group says it is increasing its investment in the U.S. from $21 billion to $26 billion. Earlier yesterday, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung met with President Donald Trump in the Oval Office. Business officials from Korean and U.S. companies were also in attendance. All told, Korean businesses are expected to invest $150 billion in the U.S. It's not clear if that's in addition to the $350 billion investment South Korea announced last month, or if it was part of that number. And joining me now for more on U.S.-South Korea ties is Brandon Weichert, geopolitical analyst and senior national security editor at the National Interest. Great to have you with us, Brandon. North and South Korea are technically at war, and President Lee said Trump is the only person who can actually resolve tensions across the 38th parallel. And President Trump says he's willing to meet with North Korean regime leader Kim Jong-un. With Trump's track record on resolving armed conflicts, is there a possibility of a successful Trump intervention there?
Well, he could certainly have a great photo op with the Kim Jong-un. The problem right now is Kim Jong-un is getting a lot better deals from Russia and to a lesser extent China, and that's largely because of the war in Ukraine. And so if you want to have meaningful diplomacy with the North Korean leadership, you've got to figure out a way in Washington to end the Ukraine war, because as long as that war is going on, North Korea is making more money and they're getting more prestige from the Russians, and they're getting more technology from the Russians to do their military modernization than they would if the war weren't going on.
Well, North Korea, they have missiles, they make nukes, they make that fissile material, and according to the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, Trump may be able to learn from lessons from his first term and then get North Korea to stop all that in exchange for non-military sanctions relief. Anything to say?
No, I agree that he can, but you've got to end the Ukraine war. People don't understand how connected. You know, we in America understandably view Ukraine as a peripheral issue. It's a proxy war. People don't realize that the other countries we're having to deal with are mainly based in Eurasia, Europe and Asia, and they're directly impacted by this. And North Korea has become sort of the supply chain for Russia into Ukraine. You need to stop the supply chain by ending the demand, which means ending the war. And then you can get all those deals.
Understood, Brandon. Very interesting. Now, can the $150 billion in South Korean investment in the U.S., alongside the multi-billion-dollar Hyundai investment to revitalize the U.S. shipbuilding industry, make a difference in U.S. economic and military output?
Oh, sure, it will help a little bit, but ultimately the big issue here is the infrastructure supporting mass production manufacturing in the United States is not what it once was. In fact, we might even be better off asking the South Koreans to just start building some ships for us, because we can't do it here anymore. And no amount of money is going to change that, because our infrastructure supporting production is so old. We don't have a good workforce right now. It's way too expensive to build here, too many regulations. And so unless we're going to address those underlying factors with our mass production here, we can't expect to actually have much of an economic benefit from any of these contracts. It'll help, but it's not going to address the underlying problems here.
Okay, Brandon. Well, there are analysts that say that the U.S. shipbuilding industry is defunct, and reports go out and say that China has 250 times or more the shipbuilding capacity as the United States. But are you talking short term here? Because wouldn't the United States want to have long-term capacity to build ships?
Well, I'm talking short-term and long-term, because it's so bad right now. We can't do anything to reverse this trend without addressing those fundamental problems, which doesn't require more money. It requires better management styles, better skilled tradesmen in terms of training these people to be shipbuilders. It requires better management of the shipbuilding companies. There's a lot of DEI, as well as with Boeing as well, a lot of DEI stuff that's really clouding the issue for managing a good company. And then a lot of regulations at the federal government level that's really complicating our ability to produce anything in the short term or even the long term. So long as those issues remain unaddressed, which right now they are, it doesn't really matter what contracts we get. It's not going to make the kind of impact we need it to make. We need to bring manufacturing back to the United States, and it's not happening yet.
Brandon, such an important topic that you bring light on, and I've spoken to analysts that you need to close that skills gap, and
that's right.
You need to make sure that the upcoming workforce views those blue-collar jobs, making steel vessels, as being cool and also as lucrative as well. Now let's move on. And President Lee has acknowledged that it's becoming more difficult to balance relations between the U.S., a key security backer, and China, its top trading partner. So are there any pathways for the free world with the U.S. at the helm to help South Korea reduce its reliance on the Chinese regime?
It's a political problem, first and foremost. The political problem is that the Trump administration and the Biden administration before it did not pay attention close enough to South Korea's politics. And what happened was the Chinese were able to come in and help the very left-wing elite in South Korea reclaim power from the pro-American right-leaning side of the aisle there. And now that they have power, they're not going to let it go so easily. And we're never going to be able to have the kind of relationship we want to have with South Korea, because the leadership now of South Korea wants to be close with China, doesn't want to be so dependent on the United States. They don't like that that the previous governments of South Korea were so dependent on America. So it's a political problem first and foremost, and that's not going to change anytime soon because we let this situation get out of control.
Well, we understand that there may be some pro-communist sympathizers in the South Korean political sphere, but that martial law declaration, that may not have helped things at all.
No, it didn't. No. But ultimately, we have to remember the cold hand of China is all over the events of South Korea in the last couple of years. And I am convinced that China helped to rig the election, the recent election in South Korea. And I am convinced that the current leader of Seoul is basically China's guy on some level, which means that he's not going to be too incentivized to really detach from China. He's going to try to be a middle player, balancing China and America off each other. We're not going to get many benefits out of this, I don't think. And the longer that lasts, the weaker South Korea gets and the stronger North Korea gets. So that's a big security problem on the peninsula.
Well, President Lee certainly seemed to be good at creating a warm atmosphere in that Oval Office with President Trump.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, South Korean leaders, South Korea, they're very hospitable people. It's culturally very hospitable. They're good diplomats. You know, ultimately, don't mistake what I'm saying to say they don't want to have any relations with the United States. They do, and they're happy to do these deals because they know that really it helps them with their middle strategy, which as a small and medium-sized power, they are trying to forge a third way that balances China and America off each other rather than being too dependent on either. But I can tell you, the politics or the ideology of the current South Korean leadership is very much toward the communist side or the Chinese side more so than our side.
Very, very interesting, Brandon. Let's expand on this. I mean, surveys show that some South Koreans now, with this whole talk about the 30,000 U.S. troops that are in South Korea, someone has to pay for them. They're saying, hey, maybe South Koreans should just up their defense, maybe build more nuclear weapons so they can protect themselves and not rely on the U.S. so much as a security partner.
Ultimately, I think that should be where things go. I think that in the case of these countries like South Korea, they're advanced, they're relatively stable. They have the technology base. They're clearly threatened by the North, regardless of whether they're playing nice with China now or not. The fact remains, I agree that they should start. I say this of Europe. I say this of Taiwan and Israel. I say this of every independent country that's threatened around the world. Up your defense spending significantly, enhance your capabilities so that you don't have to call Uncle Sam whenever you hit a problem, because Uncle Sam is not doing so hot right now, and we need to focus on our own house and get our own house in order before we think about helping anybody.
Brandon, what should Americans be watching for in this new geopolitical landscape in which President Trump is seeking to use, in part, economic means to strengthen alliances and end wars? And what are the challenges of that approach?
Well, the issue is you're going to be doing deals. Politically, Trump's going to get a lot of flack if he starts playing nice with certain countries, saying he's giving in. But ultimately, geoeconomics is a different game than geopolitics. They're related, but geoeconomics is not zero-sum all the time the way geopolitics tends to be. Geoeconomics can be win-win. And so Trump doing deals with, say, Russia is not necessarily a loss. Trump not doing deals or not doing enough deals with, say, South Korea is also not necessarily a loss. It's just reflective of the reality. The reality today is we are not a unipolar power anymore. The world is not run by one country, the United States, as it was in the 90s and early 2000s. It is now a tripolar system, the United States, Russia, and China, with a multipolar system coming online behind it. And we're going to need to figure out how do we protect our interests like Taiwan without overstepping and destabilizing this very precarious tripolar system. That's where these economic deals come in. Trump's 100% correct. He's got to use the power of the purse to make our allies pay more and even to do business at times with our enemies.
Lot to think about here. Brandon Weichert, thank you for this intelligent conversation.
Thanks for having me.
As national debate continues around the Trump administration's efforts to take on city crime, House lawmakers have launched an investigation. They're probing Washington, D.C.'s crime data. NTD's Melina Wisecup has the details.
The Republican House Oversight Committee is launching an investigation into D.C.'s police department. They're probing crime statistics. This is after allegations and whistleblower disclosures suggesting that leaders of the police department have manipulated crime numbers. The DOJ launched an investigation into the same issue just last week. Now House Republicans aim to support that investigation. The chairman of the committee, James Comer, in a letter directed to the police chief, said the city's police department recently entered into a settlement agreement related to allegations that senior MPD officials were engaged in falsifying crime statistics to artificially lower reported crime rates. The chairman is requesting interviews with commanders of all 7 patrol districts. The 3rd district commander was placed on administrative leave back in May following allegations that he altered crime reports. One Democrat on the Oversight Committee supports the idea of looking into these allegations, though he doesn't trust the manner in which the chairman will handle it.
If there was manipulation of data, it should be looked into to serious allegation. But if Comer's touching it, forget it. I mean, I put no faith in what James Comer is doing as he tries to become the next governor of Kentucky, just to try to please the White House.
D.C.'s mayor recently supported the crime statistics from the district's police department, saying that crime has indeed gone down over the past 2 years. President Trump, though, says that the mayor needs to get on board with his plan, saying that the crime statistics are phony.
She's a nice woman, but I'll tell you what, she's got to get on the ball. I don't want to see phony numbers. D.C. hit an all-time high last year of absolute total crime.
This comes amid heated pushback from Democrats who say that Trump's deployment of National Guard troops here in D.C. is not needed. They say crime has hit a 30-year low. Now Republicans are trying to prove that statement is untrue, which is why they're looking at the numbers to find out if the statistics were indeed altered. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at news.today@ntd.com. And for round-the-clock original news coverage, watch us live at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. We'll cover more news right after this break.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week, still couldn't pay the bills, skipped meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. You know, I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 kids face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for kids facing hunger this summer.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay," and I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of children facing hunger from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org. Working together, we can end hunger in America.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money.
For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big.
Call 800-210-9106, 800-210-9106.
Welcome to NTD News Today. Here are today's top stories. A federal judge today has thrown out the Trump administration's lawsuit against Maryland's entire federal bench. A block on immediate deportations will stand. President Trump says he fired Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. What's behind his decision and her response? President Trump says America will not be the piggy bank or doormat of the world any longer, while criticizing digital taxes plus trade updates from China, Japan, and India. 3 states could lose federal funding if they don't comply with requirements on English proficiency for truckers. How one deadly incident in Florida is spurring the Transportation Department to act. Amid national debate around President Trump's federal action to tackle crime, House lawmakers are probing allegations of manipulated crime data in Washington, D.C.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Today is Tuesday, August 26th. I'm Stephanie Cox. A federal judge today threw out the Trump administration's lawsuit against Maryland's entire federal bench. The lawsuit challenged a standing order by the chief judge that stopped the immediate deportation of migrants challenging their removals. The Virginia federal judge, Thomas Cullen, who heard the case, said the Maryland judge correctly imposed temporary stays on deportations. The Trump administration argued that the standing order interfered with its authority to police immigration matters and enforce the nation's immigration laws. Cullen said the proper course for the administration would have been to either appeal any one of the immigrant cases or file a rules challenge with the Judicial Council, which has the authority to rescind or modify local court rules. And the Federal Reserve Board Governor Lisa Cook is filing a lawsuit challenging her removal by President Trump. Trump says he fired Cook over alleged improprieties in mortgage loans. In a letter posted to social media, Trump accused Cook of deceitful and potentially criminal conduct tied to her mortgage applications. The allegations stem from claims that Cook declared 2 separate homes as her primary residence when applying for loans in Michigan and Georgia. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pulte referred the matter to the Justice Department earlier this month. President Biden appointed Cook in 2022. In an emailed statement to the Associated Press, Cook said she would not step down, saying Trump had no cause or authority to fire her. Cook's lawyer said that Trump's attempt to fire her lacks factual or legal basis. Trade is in focus across Asia this week. A senior negotiator from China heads to Washington. The U.S. and Japan are finalizing a $550 billion investment deal. Plus, new American tariffs are hitting Indian exports. NTD's Daniel Monahan brings us up to speed.
Senior Chinese trade negotiator Li Chenggong is expected in Washington this week to meet U.S. officials. Li may hold deputy-level talks with U.S. counterparts. Reuters reports the visit is not part of formal negotiations. Businesses on both sides of the Pacific are watching closely to see whether the latest tariff extension will become permanent. The two countries agreed on August 11th to extend their tariff truce for another 90 days, keeping U.S. duties of 30% on Chinese imports and Chinese duties of 10% on American goods.
In another trade development, President Trump Monday threatened to restrict U.S. chip exports and impose additional tariffs on imports from countries that refuse to eliminate digital taxes.
In a Truth Social post, Trump said digital market regulations imposed by other countries were intended to harm or discriminate against American technology. Trump said the countries, quote, also outrageously give a complete pass to China's largest tech companies. This must end and end now. The president urged countries that have such taxes to show respect to America and what he called its amazing tech companies or face the consequences. Trump wrote that America and American technology companies are neither the piggy bank nor the doormat of the world any longer. Many countries, especially in Europe, have levied taxes on the sales revenue, including Alphabet's Google, Meta's Facebook, Apple, and Amazon. Turning to Japan, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the United States will make an announcement this week on Japan's $550 billion investment in the U.S. A top Japanese trade envoy is planning to visit Washington this week to formalize the package. Lutnick discussed the deal on Fox News.
We need to make semiconductors in America. We need to make antibiotics in America. We need the rare earths in America. And that's exactly what the Trump administration is all about. So the Japanese agreement, which we're going to announce later this week, that's $550 billion at the hand of Donald Trump, and he can go invest it to hit all these points.
Lutnick says the $50 billion allocated under the 2022 CHIPS Act to cover some of those areas is just too small.
We need hundreds of billions of dollars of semiconductor investment in America, and the Trump administration and Donald Trump is going to bring that home. You watch us do it. We're going to bring it home.
Washington and Tokyo agreed in July to set a reduced 15% tariff on imports from Japan in exchange for a $550 billion package of U.S. investment. And in India, exporters are bracing for disruptions after Washington confirmed it would impose an additional 25% tariff on all Indian origin goods from Wednesday.
Indian exports will face U.S. duties of up to 50% after President Trump announced extra tariffs as punishment for New Delhi's purchases of Russian oil. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
And a trade update. Indonesia says the United States has agreed in principle to exempt its exports of cocoa, palm oil, and rubber from the 19% tariff imposed since August 7th.
We have submitted the documentation to the U.S., so now we are waiting for what is their response. But during the meeting, basically, the principle has been agreed. That is for product that is not produced in the U.S., such as palm oil, cacao, rubber. For that will be zero or close to zero.
Indonesia says the exemption will take effect once both sides reach a final pact. Another trade discussion concerning Indonesia is potentially U.S. investment in fuel storage in the country. The region's largest economy was among the first nations to strike a tariff deal with Trump in July, but Jakarta ended up facing the same rate as some other countries, such as Thailand and Malaysia, and just below Vietnam's figure of 20%. Critical minerals are also in the spotlight today. The U.S. government moving to add 6 mineral commodities to its list of critical minerals. That's part of efforts to boost domestic production and reduce reliance on foreign suppliers. The U.S. Geological Survey is recommending potash, silicon, copper, silver, rhenium, and lead be added. The updated list will be published in the Federal Register today. At the same time, the arsenic and tellurium, previously considered critical, are recommended for removal. If approved, the 2025 critical minerals list will grow to 54 commodities, up from 50 in 2022 and just 35 in 2018. China dominates the processing of at least 30 of the minerals already deemed critical. Since last year, Beijing has tightened exports of several key materials. And as national debate continues around the Trump administration's efforts to take on city crime, House lawmakers have launched an investigation. They're probing Washington, D.C.'s crime data. NTD's Melina Weiskup has the details.
The Republican House Oversight Committee is launching an investigation into D.C.'s police department. They're probing crime statistics. This is after allegations and whistleblower disclosures suggesting that leaders of the police department have manipulated crime numbers. The DOJ launched an investigation into the same issue just last week. Now House Republicans aim to support that investigation. The chairman of the committee, James Comer, in a letter directed to the police chief, said the city's police department recently entered into a settlement agreement related to allegations allegations that senior MPD officials were engaged in falsifying crime statistics to artificially lower reported crime rates. The chairman is requesting interviews with commanders of all 7 patrol districts. The 3rd district commander was placed on administrative leave back in May following allegations that he altered crime reports. One Democrat on the Oversight Committee supports the idea of looking into these allegations, though he doesn't trust the manner in which the chairman will handle it.
If there was manipulation of data, it should be looked into to serious allegation. But if Comer's touching it, forget it. I mean, I put no faith in what James Comer is doing as he tries to become the next governor of Kentucky just to try to please the White House.
D.C.'s mayor recently supported the crime statistics from the district's police department, saying that crime has indeed gone down over the past 2 years. President Trump, though, says that the mayor needs to get on board with his plan, saying that the crime statistics are phony.
She's a nice woman, but I'll tell you what, she's got to get on the ball. I don't want to see phony numbers. D.C. hit an all-time high last year of absolute total crime.
This comes amid heated pushback from Democrats who say that Trump's deployment of National Guard troops here in D.C. is not needed. They say crime has hit a 30-year low. Now Republicans are trying to prove that statement is untrue, which is why they're looking at the numbers to find out if the statistics were indeed altered. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says more action is needed if Russian President Vladimir Putin declines a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The chancellor warns further economic pressure if Moscow doesn't agree to the talks.
If the Russian president is serious about ending the killing, then he will accept the offer. If the Russian side fails to take this step, then more pressure will be needed. For that case, we in the European Union are working on further sanctions.
He added that President Trump also suggested possibly imposing further tariffs. Merz spoke alongside Zelenskyy and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. The Prime Minister says Zelenskyy is willing to meet Putin anywhere neutral. This means Zelenskyy doesn't expect Putin to come to Kyiv, and he doesn't plan to go to Moscow for the meeting. President Trump is now holding a cabinet meeting at the White House. Take a listen.
The American worker, promote great-paying blue-collar jobs and to rebuild the industrial bedrock of our nation. It's also obviously for great defense. We have the greatest military in the world. We rebuilt it largely in my first term. Some of it was stupidly given away to Afghanistan. For what reason? Nobody can figure that one. But it was still a relatively small amount of what, if you compare. The concept of what they did, however, is just incredible. But the country is doing well. We're respected all over the world like never before, probably. We went to NATO, as you know, and they went from 2% to 5% of GDP. Nobody expected that. And the difference is they didn't pay the 2 and they paid the 5. So. And as you know, we are selling a tremendous amount of equipment to NATO. We're not spending any money, we're making money, but I don't want to talk about making. I want to talk about we're no longer involved with funding Ukraine, but we are involved with trying to stop the war or the killing in Ukraine. So we're selling missiles and military equipment, millions and millions, and ultimately billions of dollars to the NATO people where I'm very friendly and we have a great relationship, but that was an amazing trip. So they're funding the entire war. We're not funding anything. I think it's an important point to make because a lot of people don't understand that. And we will continue to do that, and we're trying to get as much as we can for them. They want the American product. The American military product is by far the best in the world, and that's what they want to get. They have lots of options, but that's what they want to get. So the factories are doubling up and tripling up where they make the Patriots and other really, you could say, defense and offensive weapons. The wages for blue-collar workers are now rising at the fastest rate in 60 years, which is so important to all of us around this table. The average American worker has already seen a $500 wage increase this year, and there's no inflation because there's been decreases, tremendous decreases, with thanks to Doug and Chris and some of the people, the great job they've done with energy. Thank you very much. And Chris, thank you very much. I see you down close to $60 a barrel, and you'll be breaking that pretty soon. And that has a huge impact. So we have groceries are down, Energy is way down. Energy is way down. It was $4 and $5 for a gallon of gas. Think of that for gasoline. And now it's probably $2.25. There are some places it's $2. It broke $2 in a couple of locations in the South. In places like California where they charge such high taxes, it's higher, but it's still much lower than what it was a year ago. So energy's way down. Groceries are way down. Eggs are way down. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. You've done a great job. Appreciate it. When we came in, the eggs were through the roof. They were 4 times higher than they've ever been. And my first question from you people were, what are you going to do with eggs? I said, what's the problem with eggs? That was caused by Biden, or whoever was operating the auto pen actually caused it, I guess, because I don't think he knew too much about eggs. Factories are booming compared to before I took office. Domestic auto production is going to be, it's going to be so thrilling in 2 years when you see the numbers, because they're building plants all over the country. They're all coming in because of tariffs. They don't want to build, they don't want to pay the tariffs. And if they build their plant here, they don't pay the tariffs. And they're pouring into our country, and you know about AI and you know about other, but the auto plants, you know, that's the good old-fashioned stuff that I love. The auto plants are pouring into the United States of America. They're coming from Mexico, they're coming from Canada, and they're coming from Europe, all over Europe. And it's been pretty amazing. So factories are booming. And when they actually open, you know, right now they're booming in terms of construction. This is something given to me by Mark Zuckerberg. And you'll see this is AI now. These are, I never understood. I said, well, you know, because I built shopping centers, and for $50 million, you can build a very nice shopping center. So I never understood when they said $50 billion for a plant. I said, what the hell kind of a plant is that? But when you look at this, you understand why it's $50 billion. So this is one he's building in Louisiana. That's Meta, Facebook, as people understand it to be. But look at that, that's the size of Manhattan. So that's superimposed over the island of Manhattan. It takes up a big part of Manhattan. I think they say 81% of Manhattan. So these are big things, and they're going up. A lot of them are going up now. I don't know that big. Actually, Mark is building 4 of them, and others are building similar places. And when these things open up, I'll tell you what, our country, we're leading China now in AI, substantially leading China. And the reason is because we're letting them build their own electrical facilities. We would need double the energy that if you take all of the electricity that we produce right now in this country, you'd have to multiply it times 2 or maybe 3 times. So 3 times more than we have right now for everything, to operate your toaster and everything else, okay? 3 times more. And the way we are able to succeed, because China goes out and builds these massive plants. They're right now building 58 coal, in this case, almost all coal-fired plants. And coal is back with this country too, by the way. You know, there's a reason they use it, because it's good. It works for them. And we call it clean coal. We don't call it coal, we call it clean, even very clean coal. But we have coal going up, we have nuclear going up. Nuclear is very much in vogue now. It's safe and inexpensive and great. We don't allow windmills. We're not allowing any windmills to go up. I mean, unless there's a legal situation where somebody committed to it a long time ago, we don't allow windmills. And we don't want the solar panels that I was speaking with the secretary about, because they take up, you know, thousands of acres of our farmland. You see these big, ugly patches of black plastic that comes from China. And the solar is, you know, I like solar in some ways, but for firing up your big plants, it doesn't work. It's very unstable, but it really takes up your farm. The farmers are saying, you know, they're building these massive blotches in the middle of the fields all over the country. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. So we're not heavy into that at all. And windmills, we're just not going to allow them. They're ruining our country. They're ruining everyone. If you look at, I hate to mention countries, but you look at the UK, what's happened at UK, they have energy costs have gone through the roof. It's because of wind. They want to do everything, close up the northern parts of the country. They have oil that's tremendous. And they closed it up, and they've been building windmills all over the place. And I tell them, you're my friends, but man, you're going to have a bad awakening very soon. It's going to be very bad. They're ugly. They don't work. They kill your birds. They're bad for the environment. And if you look at them from a house, your house is worth less than 50%. So I'm trying to have people learn about wind real fast, and I think I've done a good job, but not good enough, because some countries are still trying, and they're destroying themselves. Those are countries that are really destroying themselves. I hope they get back to fossil fuel, because right now, Chris, whether we like it or not, fossil fuel is the thing that works, and then you can add nuclear with it and other things, but fossil fuel is what works if we're going to fire up those big monster factories. But if you look at comparing everything before I took office, domestic auto production is up 18,000 cars a month. And we haven't even started yet, because a lot of these plants aren't built. It's up 18,000 because Ford, General Motors, and a couple of others, Stellantis, they're taking their existing plants, and they're, as quickly as they can, they're adding on to them. So when their plants open, because they're building big, modern, beautiful auto plants, but think of that, we're up 18,000 cars a month, and essentially all they've done is try and utilize their space correctly as their big plants open up. It's going to be, I hope they remember that it was this way. I hope this table gets a lot of the credit for what's happening. It gets all of the credit, because this would have never happened. We were going out of business in every way. We were losing. All the car plants were leaving this country. Now they're all coming back in, and they are coming from Canada, and they are coming from Mexico, but they're coming from Germany. They're coming from all over the world. Domestic steel production is up by 100,000 tons of steel a week. We have a 50% tariff on steel, aluminum, and various other things. Copper just got brought into the picture, and that means people are going to want to make steel here. We just made a deal with U.S. Steel. As you know, we have an outside company come in, spend $17 billion on building new plants, new everything. It's great, and it stays right here in America. So we're doing amazingly well on steel, and domestic oil production is up by more than 300,000 barrels a day. That's a lot of barrels, and you're going to be talking about that in a second, I think, Chris and Doug. These two people have done a fantastic job, and we have the oil price down to about $62 a barrel. So just so you understand, because a lot of you like to talk about costs and prices, but I watch so much fake information. Product costs are down. Energy is way down. Energy brings things down. You know, with energy, that's what happened with Biden. He stopped our program, and then he went back to it when he realized that it looked like you're going to be paying numbers that nobody's ever seen, like $7 a gallon. You're going to pay $7 a gallon. They were up to $7.5. So then he immediately went back to the Trump plan that they terminated, but it was too late for them. It was too late. They blew it. They had a great thing going. I gave them something great, and they blew it. Since the inauguration, we've created over 500,000 new private jobs, and if you notice, when the numbers come out, government jobs are going down and private jobs are coming up, and that's what really fuels the country. It's easy to hire people and pay them for doing something that maybe is not very productive, but government jobs are down, actually substantially down, and private jobs are way up, and these are the jobs that make money, create a better life. Meanwhile, we've reduced the number of federal bureaucrats by 84,000. So we got rid of 84,000, and I think the job numbers, you're going to see the new job numbers are going to be through the roof because of all of the different businesses that are moving into our country. And not just production businesses, autos and AI, but any business you can think of. In the world of furniture, as an example, North Carolina, I went there many times when I built a lot of hotels and things, and I'd go to North Carolina, I'd buy the greatest, they were the greatest, most talented people. And then China came along and took all of those jobs away. If they would have tariffed them, China wouldn't have taken any of the jobs. But we had presidents that, honestly, and I like some of them, but they didn't know what the hell they were doing from a business standpoint, from running the country. and North Carolina, the most talented woodworkers that you've ever seen. I'd be there and I'd watch them. I'd say, I'd like to have a rail in that chair. Maybe can you fancy it up a little bit? How about this, sir? And they'd hand me a thing. It was like they were artists. They were unbelievable. And that business was stolen from us by others, not only China, but by others. All of a sudden, you're ordering your furniture from China. It was not even close to being as good, but they couldn't compete with it. If we would have said it costs 100% or 200% tariff, you wouldn't have lost one job. It's so sad. But we're going to rebuild North Carolina furniture and other places, South Carolina too, to a lesser extent. They make furniture. But furniture, we're going to put a very substantial tariff on. We've already announced it. It'll be done pretty quickly. And when that happens, everyone's going to start. I just tell you, North Carolina, go out and start getting the grandchildren and the children, start teaching them, because some of those incredible artists that I knew as young people, they're older people now, but they still have the talent and they have time left. But they're going to be teaching their sons and their daughters and their grandchildren. And it's going to be a beautiful thing to see. It's going to happen like magic. It's going to happen without question. It's not like, gee, I hope it happens. It's going to happen. The results of Ford that just announced it's going to create 4,000 new jobs, American jobs. Hyundai, 14,000 jobs. General Motors is moving production of the Chevy Blazer and Equinox from Mexico back to the United States where it belongs. Don't forget, we lost 55% of our auto production over the last 35 years. 55%. We were the auto capital of the world. Like there was nobody even think about challenging us. We lost 55% of it to Mexico, Canada, China, a lot to China, and other countries. And it's all coming back. We will be bigger. A couple of years, we'll be bigger than we ever were. We'll be more dominant. We'll be bigger. We make great product, too. We're starting to make really great product. We're going to be bigger than we ever were. We're going to be at the level that it was when we were the only one that really, we sold to the world. And we're going to be back selling to ourselves and other parts of the world. It's not going to be the same, but it's going to be equally as important as it was in the heyday 30 years ago. But we lost more than 50% of the automaking capacity. In fact, the unions, the auto unions, as you know, the top guy didn't know me, didn't like me, and now he likes me. He says, man, I can't believe what Trump has done. But the auto workers voted for me. They understood better than anybody else. The auto workers, the Teamsters voted for me. Teamsters are great. They all voted for me. No Republican has ever gotten the support of the Teamsters and the auto workers. And now the head of the auto workers, I mean, it's so amazing. I watch them on television and they can't even believe what happened. And I told them all what was going to happen. We secured new market access for American agricultural exports all over the world. Our secretary is doing a great job. Thank you, Brooke. And we have negotiated historic trade deals with the United Kingdom, China, Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines, Japan, South Korea, who was here yesterday, and the European Union. Foreign nations are now paying hundreds of billions of dollars straight into our treasury, and numbers that nobody's ever seen before. As you know, we made trade deals with a lot of countries, and many of those countries, just to be able to sit at the table, are paying us hundreds of billions of dollars. We made a trade deal with the European Union. They were rough on us for a long time. And now we have a very good deal. We made that with them. Trillions of dollars is coming into our country. Trillions. Far beyond billions, trillions of dollars. Wouldn't you say, Scott?
Yes, sir.
And in a short period of time, they have to buy $750 billion worth of our energy product. Energy is great. We have more than anybody else, so we're using it. But the European Union is a done deal, and Japan is done. And, I heard there was a problem with South Korea, but we met yesterday, and they're done. We didn't do anything. We just kept the same deal. He honored the deal. They wanted to see if, I don't even want to say it, but they wanted to see if they could do something. But they honored the deal, which is nice. And we cut the previous record-setting trade deficit, I hear just came out. We cut it in half already. We haven't even said, we've only been here really for a few months because, you know, it takes you a little while to fix up the Oval Office and do those things. prepare for the battle, right? So we really only been here for a very short period of time, and we cut the trade deficit in half. Is that right? That's fantastic. I didn't even think we were going to do that. And remember, these are things that are being built. These things, all these numbers up here, they're not open yet. When they open, you're going to see things happen in the United States that nobody's ever seen before, including our country in its heyday. And I had the greatest economy in the history of our country my first 4 years, despite COVID, which was a very unfortunate situation for the whole world. We did a great job with it, never got the credit for the job we did. Operation Warp Speed, people say, is one of the greatest achievements ever in politics or in the military, because it was almost a military procedure. But everybody, including Putin, said that Operation Warp Speed, what you did with that, nobody can believe it. And we did a great job, but it was a horrible pall over our country. We had a very dark cloud over the world. That was a very, very bad thing that came out of Wuhan, which I said it came out of Wuhan. That's where it came from. And China suffered greatly, but everybody did. But we did a good job with that, as good as you can possibly do, and we came back, and now we're stronger than ever before. If I didn't win this election, this country was gone. I'm telling you, economically it was gone. None of the things that we're talking about would have happened. The whole world was robbing us blind. Friend and foe. They were stealing our jobs, our money, our factories. They were stealing everything. We would have been a shell. We would have been a bankrupt, broken shell. And that's the way it is. But we're doing just the opposite. Stronger than we've ever been. Last month, in a landmark achievement, I also proudly signed the largest working class tax cuts in American history. So the bill that, I'm not going to use the term great, big, beautiful. That was good for getting it approved, but it's not good for explaining to people what it's all about. It's a massive tax cut for the middle class. It's a massive tax cut for jobs. And it's, think of it, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. So seniors, I don't know how you can vote for anybody else. And, just think of that. And no tax on overtime. So you work overtime, you don't have to pay tax on overtime. That's good. The Democrats don't know what they're going to do. So they have, like, this soundbite. They have all these sound bites. They send it out. I don't know. Some guy sends out a word, and everybody uses it, including the fake news. Some of you are here right now. I'm looking at you. And it's death. They use the word death. No, it's actually life. It's almost like a newborn life. It's not death. That's their soundbite. The bill is death. It's not. We strengthen Social Security. We strengthen Medicare, Medicaid. The job we've done on Social Security is, if the Democrats got in, Social Security is over, because the country's going to fail. There won't be any Social Security. And I made that pledge to you. We're going to take care of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. And we're doing that in spades because the country is becoming so successful again. And it hasn't been this successful. I think in the end, it will never have been this successful. I don't think it'll even be close with what's happening. Every American is seeing a tax cut as a result of the bill. The average police officer will keep an extra $1,000 a year at least in overtime, and the average waiter or waitress will keep nearly $2,000 extra in the fact that they would have had to pay that kind of money on tips. And I never realized that the government was so strong on that. But waitresses, waiters would tell me that the government would go after them. Like, it was horrible. That's how it all started with me. It just was incredible. And the biggest thing was, again, the $4 trillion that they found. They said, well, that was nice. They should have announced it. I could have told them that. And I don't know. It should be simple. But a lot of people didn't understand it. Actually, a lot of good people didn't understand it. But now they're saying, Trump was right. They'd never seen anything like this. And I don't know what it is, Scott. They didn't understand what we were trying to explain to them was going to happen. Everybody's moving back to the United States because they don't want to pay a tax. If they're not here, they have to pay a tax. And it didn't seem that complicated. but it's working at a level that nobody can imagine. You know, this is working $4 trillion, but that's a big number. It's a number that nobody ever heard of before, but 4 trillion is exciting. But that's nothing compared to what's happening, because these places haven't even opened yet. Some of them haven't even started hiring yet. They're under construction. So it's construction jobs, but it's not the big number, and the big numbers, when they open, they're going to be very successful. It's a revolution. We're also working on things to ensure that the awesome power of artificial intelligence is used to benefit all Americans, including American workers and also American children. In that spirit, our wonderful First Lady has just announced a presidential AI challenge. It's going to be a very good challenge, I can tell you. She's put her heart into it, which will inspire the next generation to stay on the cutting edge of this vital technology. This is the new internet, the new computer, the new television, the new everything, all put together in one. This is why when I show you a picture like that, I mean, I show you this. This is a factory superimposed over the island of Manhattan. And you have many of them being built right now all over the country, or soon to start. Some of them. Some of them have started. This one has actually started. That's in the great state of Louisiana. But the First Lady is working very hard on this, and it's an important initiative. And Melania, when she puts her mind to it, nobody can do better. There's nobody. So every young person should go to AI.gov to learn more, AI.gov to learn more. And you'll see it's a great challenge. I think it's going to be a very modern kind of a challenge that involves AI, which is very exciting to people. So I want to thank her, raise a lot of money for children. We're putting America first, and we're going to be putting the America worker first. And, you know, the Republican Party has picked up 4 million new people, 4 million. The Democrats have lost 2.5 million. Other than that, they're extremely happy. No, they're very depressed. They're very depressed. And their new box that they've fallen into is crime. There was a consultant on one of the shows this morning I was watching. I thought he was very good. He's a Democrat consultant. And he was screaming, no, no, don't let him do this to you. Don't let, it's another trap. It's another trap. What he's talking about, like men playing in women's sports. They said that's an 80-20. No, it's a 97-3. It's 97-3, like transgender for everybody. They fought for it. They're still fighting for it. I saw a guy today, a politician that you all know very well, fighting like hell for men playing in women's sports. You don't understand. They're human beings also. Well, I agree they're human beings. But you can't have a 7-foot guy playing basketball with the women. You know, it's just one of those little problems in life. And we all have our place. That's okay. I've got my place too. But this guy's screaming, it's another trap. And this is the worst of all. He said, because this is crime. Trump is saying he's against crime and they're for crime. No, he's going, it was funny. No, it's a trap. Don't do it. And then I saw this poor, stupid Chuck Schumer, the guy. He looks like he's aged 100 years. And I don't like getting into looks. You know, looks don't mean anything, right? When you're in politics, looks don't matter. I look at Pam, I would never say she's beautiful because that'd be the end of my political career. Laurie, secretary. But I will tell you, this is the best of all. And they're going to fight me. Like this slob of a governor you have in Illinois. This poor guy got thrown out of his business by his family. I know the family. I was partners with the family. Nice family. I like the family, but he was no good. They threw him out. He's governor of Illinois. And he goes about Trump, we don't need his help. Chicago is the worst. These places are really bad. Crime in D.C. was the worst it ever was. You know, they make up stories. Crime in D.C. was the worst ever in history. And now, over the last 13 days, we've worked so hard. We've taken so many, there are many left, but we've taken so many criminals, over 1,000. I watched a man from Maryland who said to me, sir, you're the greatest president. You're doing an unbelievable job. What a great job. Governor Moore, has anyone heard of him? Mm-hmm. He's another hopeful for president. I don't think so. But I met him, and I didn't realize it was on camera. Did you see they caught him on camera? I was at a game, I don't know, like the Army-Navy game or something. And I met him in a hallway. And as usual, you do your job very well. One of these great cameramen had it on tape. But I met this gentleman. I never met him before. Sir, you're doing a great job. You're doing an unbelievable job. Thank you very much. But then he goes on television and says, oh, Trump is a dictator. He's a dictator. And a lot of people are so the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator. I just know how to stop crime. And you would think that Illinois, where they have such a problem with crime, such a bad governor, he should be calling me and he should be saying, could you send over the troops, please? It's out of control. It's out of control. In New York, it's out of control. Not as bad as Illinois, by the way. Not even close. In California, you would have not had the Olympics had I not sent in the troops. We sent in the National Guard. They did a fantastic job. We have the Olympics. We have the World Cup coming. I got them in my first term, and I was really sad because I said, oh, boy, I got them, and I won't be president. And little things happen. Thank you, God. Thank you. Little things happen. Think of it. You could ask Johnny. Johnny would tell you he's the head of World Cup. He's a great guy, too, great commissioner. But he's the head of the World Cup. He said, Trump is the only reason we're doing this. And the sad part is that I was not going to have it. I would have to be, probably I wouldn't have even been invited to the game, depending on who's president, right? And I got that. I did not get 250, okay? The 250th anniversary, I did not get. I'd like to claim it, if I might, but I did get that. That was, whether I was president or not, it was still 250. I'd like to take credit for it. What I will take credit for is we're going to have a better celebration under Trump than you would have had under some stuff. That I'll take care of. We're going to have a safer place, Christy, because of you and Tom Homan and everybody, right? But, so we have 250 coming up. We have the World Cup coming up, which is like having 45 Super Bowls. And we have the Olympics coming up. So we're going to have a very exciting 3.5 years remaining. We're going to have a very exciting, it's going to be done properly. So I just want to tell you, our country's in incredible shape. Our military is strong and powerful and respected. We had some fantastic decisions from the Supreme Court that let us put the people into the military and other businesses that are best for the job, as opposed to some woke reason that was killing our country. That was a very strong, very powerful. You can now go into a company based on your ability, as opposed to being forced in based on some factor that cannot make our country great. That was a big decision, very, very big decision. And we've had a lot of great decisions, and we've all made some great decisions sitting around this table. I want to thank Scott. Unbelievable what's happening financially with you and Howard. And Vice President's involved in everything, and he's been great. And Marco has been, really, I think you're born for this job. I don't think you should ever run for another office. I don't think you should, really. You're so good at this. He is so good. And everybody likes him, everybody likes him. But everybody, much more importantly than like, I think you would say, is respect. They respect Marco. They respect all the people around the table. So what I'd like to do is, I'd like to go around the table. You seem to like it. Your audience seems to like it based on ratings. And I want to mention, about crime, because we have a young lady here, Iris, of Epoch Times. You're Iris, aren't you, huh? And I heard you were very savagely mugged in the city, and I'm not going to let that happen under this administration. That was last year. And would you like to mention what happened?
Of course. So first of all, thank you, Mr. President.
You want to listen to this?
For having me here to share my story to the room and to the broader public. My name is Iris Tao. I'm a White House correspondent for NTD, the sister media of the Epoch Times. So more than 2 years ago, it was a Saturday morning. in broad daylight. I was on my way to work, and a young man with a black ski mask pointed a gun at my face and threatened me to hand over my phone, my wallet, my laptop, and everything else. And when I refused, he used the butt of his handgun to strike me across the face, in the cheek, or what some people call pistol whip me, before running away. And that has deeply traumatized myself and my family. Ever since, I've never dared to walk in the street of DC at night, ever. And my family was extremely worried. So, Mr. President, thank you so much for what you're doing right now.
Thank you for being honest.
Such incidents involve not just me, but also my family. If he had shot me, I could have died right there in the middle of nowhere without my families or my friends knowing at the age of back then, I think 23.
Right.
Just starting my career here in DC without even starting a family. Right now, I'm very blessed to have this opportunity.
So you had a gun pointed at your head, and you probably figured that he's going to pull the trigger because these are animals that don't know what the hell, they couldn't care less. The pulling the trigger to him is a very minor event, and I'm sure he's done it before. So how did you, and you did refuse to give it, which would probably, maybe somebody would say that was not the right decision, right? But you refused, but I understand that. And then he hit you real hard.
Yes.
It's really amazing that you weren't shot, though.
I'm very blessed, and that's why having this opportunity to stand here to share my story today. One, I'm very grateful for God for allowing me to still survive to this day, but also to Mr. President. Thank you for now making DC safer.
Thank you very much.
For us, for our families, for my parents, on my behalf of my parents, and now my baby on the way. Thank you so much.
Reporters and journalists, good people, and you don't have to say it, but that have also been attacked violently, and not violently too, pretty badly. But and I bet you see a big difference in the streets right now. And this is only 12 days, but people are telling me they're going out to dinner now. They haven't. I told the story of my friend, but I have a lot of friends that are going out to dinner all the time now in DC, and they weren't doing it 12 days ago. They would never even think. One of my friends went out 5 times. It was 4 times the last time I told. Now it's 5 times. He said, I love going out to dinner, and restaurants are starting to open again. A lot of them closed because, nobody wanted to go into a restaurant. Nobody wanted to get to a restaurant or even sit in the restaurant. But you see a big difference now, don't you?
I do. I do pass by Union Station every day on my way home, and I do feel a lot safer seeing the trucks right outside, seeing the National Guard troops members right outside. Just made me feel like I'm hopeful about DC again, and one day hopefully we can raise our family here.
Thank you very much. That's nice. And those are tough troops too. Those are not politically correct troops. We don't have politically correct anymore. We have tough guys, tough people, including some tough women. But we have tough people, and when you look at them, I'll tell you, they showed one scene where a bunch of Tren de Aragua guys, or whatever, maybe MS-13, maybe MSDNC, okay? Because to me, they're worse. I think they're worse. MSNBC maybe is worse than Tren de Aragua. Real scum, real dishonest people. But anyway, they went into this gang. I think it was Tren de Aragua, Venezuela, and they weren't nice to this group of people. The gang was calling them sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Get out of here. Get the hell out of here. You're no good. Get out of here. And yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. These are people that beat up people all day long, and they're calling these soldiers. That's what they are. They're real soldiers. There's no games. I said, you don't have to be politically correct. And you know the way they used to spit in the face of the soldiers, with the soldiers standing like this, and you'd have some guy or some woman sometimes screaming at them from 1 inch away. They're standing there, and they're told you cannot do anything, and they start spitting, actually spitting in their face. And I said, you spit, we hit. And they're totally authorized to do that, all of those things. But your story is great, and there are other stories here, but they don't have to tell them. But some people are ashamed to tell them. They don't want to tell them. But it was like a jungle, and it's not a jungle anymore. And it's going to get so good that this will be the safest capital there is. It'll be one of the safest places in our nation anywhere. And right now it's one of the most unsafe places, but not now. 12 days ago, it was the most unsafe place in our nation. And they have to stop issuing false crime numbers because, I mean, I heard the mayor, and I like the mayor, you know, fine. I don't care if I like her or not. If she did her job, I wish she were a horrible person who did her job. But she's probably nice, I guess. I don't care. I want her to do a job. But they issue false numbers. She said crime is down, you know, before we got, now they can say crime is down. Crime is very much down. But what they did is they issued numbers. It's the best in 30 years. Not the best. It's the worst. It's the worst. It's much worse. And they gave phony numbers. And then they fired the man who didn't want to write the phony numbers. He got fired. And I guess that whole situation's under investigation because it's a very important thing, Pam. I mean, if they're going to give these phony numbers, it's a false feeling that you get crime. You have to do something about it. And you can't go around saying, "Oh, Washington D.C. safe," if it's not. It's going to be very safe very soon. It's very safe right now. You're going to go out, have dinner. People are going out all over the place. They're walking. I have people that work in government, strong, tough cookies. They can take care of themselves. But it doesn't help to have big, strong muscles. And I work out. If a guy's over there with a gun shooting you in your face, you can be the strongest guy in the world. A guy has a gun, shoots you in the face. It doesn't matter how much you've worked out, how many weights you've lifted, how hard you work. And so we have the toughest guys and we have the best guys. And I'm willing to go to Chicago, which is a big trouble, but we have a governor that refuses to admit he has problems, huge problems. Baltimore, Wes Moore was telling me I want to walk with the president. Well, I said, I want to walk with you too someday, but first you got to clean up your crime because I'm not walking in Baltimore right now. Baltimore is a hellhole. And this guy, I don't even think he knows it. He's another candidate for president. Between him and Newsom, you got some real beauties, I'll tell you. But if we didn't go into Los Angeles, you wouldn't have the Olympics. In my opinion, you wouldn't have the Olympics. We went in, and the sheriff, the boss, said, "Thank God they're here." You could see his tape. He said, "We were not able to control what was happening." That was the sheriff. And he said it loud and clear. And, you know, they're suing us for going in and cleaning up crime. And yet their own sheriff said on the first or second night, he said, we could have never handled. That was going to be, you were not going to have the Olympics or the World Cup because that would be, there wouldn't be anything left. They shouldn't have lost 25,000 houses. The water was turned off from the Pacific Northwest. And I was after them in my first administration, turn on the water, turn it on. Nobody could have believed this could have happened. But they had no water in the fire hydrants. They had no water in the sprinkler systems that people put up in their ceilings. There was no water. And yet we have tremendous amounts of water. They send it all into the Pacific Ocean, trying to protect a certain little fish. It's not doing well because it doesn't do well without water either. And it shouldn't be protected because it shouldn't be a protected species, but I think that's actually just an excuse. I actually think these people are sick. There's something wrong. So we send hundreds of millions of gallons of water a day into the Pacific Ocean. They turn a valve, and the valve heads out, and we turn the valve back. I actually had to do it using force. We turned the valve back, and now they have water, but not as much as they should have, because they should. And I'm telling Gavin Newsom by this conversation right now, turn the rest of the water on. Turn it on. So things are done that are so sad in this country. Lack of common sense. I like to say the Republican Party is the party with common sense. We're smart, we're sharp, we're this and that. They're smart, but they're radical left people. And they can't help it. They're very smart, but they're radical left, and they're destroying our country. But they're not going to destroy it anymore. So we picked up millions of people in the Republican Party. They lost millions of people. And I think we're going to do very well in the midterms. And I just want to say one other thing, and that's medicine. The cost of medicine all over the world is much cheaper than the United States because for years the world pushed us around, including our friends. And you go to Germany, you go to England, you go to different places, and you go to a store, and it's sometimes 10% of what we pay in the United States because they said, nope, we're not paying any more. You charge the United States. This went on for 25, 30 years. And I invoked favored nations. I said, I want to pay the same as they're paying. And Bobby Kennedy is doing a good job, and Dr. Oz is doing a good job. And I asked them, I mean, other than the basics that they're doing on autism and other things, which we got to solve that problem because it's crazy what's happening, it's out of hand. But this is the most important thing that can be done is favored nations, Bobby. And we're not talking about a 25% cut or 50. We're talking about a 1,500% cut because people go to Europe to buy drugs and they come back with drugs, prescription drugs, normal, not, I don't mean the bad drugs, I mean prescription drugs, because you can buy them for 10%, 15%, 20% of what. So they're going to go up in price. And I told the countries, and I get along good with all of them. I mean, you could ask I get along good with all of them. But I said, you know, I told them, I said, you're going to go up a little bit because it's the world. It's the world. So more people in the world than we have. We're going to go down a lot, and they're going to go up a little. And it's called equalization. We're going to have equalization. So we pay the same price as the lowest drug sold anywhere in the world. And I think, Bobby, that's going to happen pretty soon. The companies are ready for it. They had to go for years. I was with a very great gentleman from Eli Lilly. I think he's an incredible executive. I mean, I'll mention the company and I'll mention him because we had this argument my first term, and then we had it in my second term. In my second term, I wouldn't stop until I won the point. And he threw up his hands. He says, you're right, I can no longer defend it. I can no longer defend that a pill that's made by Johnson & Johnson in a factory, in the same factory, in the United States versus a place in Europe or other places, including Canada, by the way, you could buy it for 10% or 15% or 20%, the cost of what we're paying. Where we'd pay 5, 6, 7 times more money. He said, it's the hardest part of my job, defending that. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm saying that we have to get down to business. And that's a great company. He's done a great job, and I appreciated it. And it really broke the ice because they were saying, well, we have to do research and development. Well, you have to do it for Germany and all these other countries, too. Well, they think the United States should bear it. I mean, I heard this stuff, and I finally said, it's over. Now, you have to have somebody that can get these countries to do it. I told them, if you don't do it, we're going to charge you a 25% tariff on everything you send into our country. That's much more money than what we're talking about. Then we have to get the drug companies to do it, and they'll do it because we have tremendous power over the drug companies, too. So we're going to get it done. I just hope we get it done fast, Bobby, because this thing should go fast. But we're going to get the cost of medicine is going to be 1,000%. Think of that. Not 2%. And I'll just tell this last story. When I was in my first term, in my last year, I was so proud of myself because drug prices went down for the first time in 28 years under my administration. You know how much it went down? 1/4%. And I was so proud of that. And I held a news conference, I think you'll be able to find it, congratulating myself and my administration because for the first time in 28 years, drug prices went down 1/4%. That little tiny, but it still went down. And I thought it was great. And then I realized, you know, it's a very complicated business and formula. You got to be very smart. I said, we're really getting ripped off by the whole world. The whole world is ripping us off. And what happened is I got on this kick. And I got the drug companies to agree. And I got countries to agree. And they're not agreeing because they think I'm a nice person. They're agreeing because I will put charges and costs and tariffs onto them that will be many times more than what they're going to be paying. So the companies are there and the countries are there. And we got to get it done, Bobby. We got to get it done. And we're going to have the biggest price of it. Now, that's going to lower Social Security, Medicare. This is going to lower everything because drugs go for everything. It's going to have the biggest impact, I think, of anything that can possibly be done. But your costs are going to be going down for medicine, for prescription drugs, will be going down at levels that nobody ever thought possible. And that's going to happen in a matter of a very short period of time. And we're all set with the countries, and we're all set with the companies. That's all you need, the two. And the middleman gets cut out. Under this scenario, the middleman doesn't exist anymore. That was the other thing. They always blamed the middleman. I said, who are the middlemen? Nobody knew who the middleman was. You know, that's right. They had the most complex formula. It was genius, but they didn't get away with it. So I'm counting on Bobby. Do you want to start, Bobby? Maybe we'll start with you. You can start with that and then go on to what we're talking about.
We are deep into MFN negotiations, most favored nation status negotiations with 14 companies. Howard Lutnick is a breath of fresh air, and I think he's going to help us get across the finish line with the leverage that we have from tariffs.
They're smart. Don't let them get away with it, Howard.
Well, the combination of Bobby's MFN and the 232 Pharmaceuticals, which we launched together, when you put those two together, it really gives Bobby the tools to go execute your plan. So I'm supporting Bobby as he executes his plan.
Good. Right?
Yes. And this cabinet meeting is supposed to be about working Americans and bringing jobs back to this country, and particularly rural America. And I want to mention the big, beautiful bill. Right now, we spend 7% of Medicaid dollars on rural hospitals. So they're getting the short end of the stick. It's about $19 billion a year. Under the Rural Transformation Program, we give them an extra $10 billion a year. So we're raising an infusion of cash to rural hospitals and rural communities by 50%. It's going to be the biggest infusion in history, and it's going to restore and revitalize these communities. And we can't survive as a nation if we don't honor our rural communities, which are the source of our values, our virtues, our character, our economy, our food. And you are bringing that back. You are bringing those communities back. I wanted to talk, because you mentioned the wind farms, we now have an interdepartmental coalition, a team, which is Doug Burgum and Howard Lutnick and Chris Wright and Pete Hegseth. We're all working on this issue. And Lee. We're all working together on this issue. We're meeting together. There are right now 11 wind farms planned that were launched during the Biden administration. Between Maine and Virginia, it's 1,130 towers. These towers are twice the size of the Washington Monument. The blades on them are...
They're massive. It's so crazy.
The blades are 350 feet long, one blade. One of these blades blew up on Nantucket last summer, and the water was filled with shards of glass, of sharp glass, so it's dangerous to swim. They had to close the beaches, but they have indemnified themselves so the local communities can't sue them. None of these projects are bonded. If you build an oil derrick in the Gulf, you got to put a bond down. There's no bond for dismantling them, and that's one of the tools that Doug is now using to challenge some of these projects. None of the cost of energy from these projects is 39 cents a kilowatt hour. The average cost in this country is 17 cents per kilowatt hour.
And natural gas is 3 cents.
Right. So it is the most expensive energy. I've been representing commercial fishermen for 40 years. They are so excited about what you're doing, Mr. President, because their fisheries are being wiped out. As soon as they begin construction, the groundfish fisheries just disappear. The fish leave the area. They've killed 160 whales in the last 2 years. So they're wiping out the whale population, the Atlantic whale population, the big whales, the minkies, the gray whale, or the humpback whales, the right whales. And you are going to save the whales on the East Coast because of this. You're going to save these economies that are based upon commercial fishing. I'll say one other thing about fishing. We are now, the South Asian nations are now dumping shrimp on our country. The shrimp is heavily contaminated. We just stopped a shipment that was contaminated with cesium-157, which is radioactive. They're farming these shrimps, and they use bactericides and antibiotics and all kinds of chemicals, and the shrimp are so contaminated that the European nations won't take them, so they're dumping them all here, and they're putting out of business. We have the most sustainable, highly regulated fishery in the world. What our fishermen do is a good thing. And all of the trawlers in the Gulf and Alaska are being shut down because we're getting shrimp dumped here. So we have now increased FDA inspections of shrimp to make sure that Americans are not buying and eating contaminated shrimp and putting our shrimpers out of business. I talked just very briefly, we have an historic agreement on pre-authorization. We brought together 80% of the insurance industry, which has agreed to, for 80% of diseases and injuries, give immediate pre-authorization so that when you go to your doctor's office and he prescribes you a new knee or whatever it is, you will immediately know whether your insurance company is going to pay for it. This is an historic agreement. People have been trying to do it for decades, and we, because of your leadership, brought the insurance industry together and got them to voluntarily agree to do this. Similarly, we've made another historic agreement with personal health records. The 60 biggest tech companies in our country have all agreed to allow Americans for the first time access to their personal data, which they own, which these companies have been monetizing without permission. You're going to be able to see by next year all of your health records on your cell phone. It's going to save lives. It is going to fuel an infusion of technology into that space where people can access those records. They can compare their diet to what they personally need, and we'll have personalized medicine. We are doing price transparency. You passed this during your first term, and then the Biden administration refused to enforce it. We've now brought at HHS, under your leadership and my leadership, more enforcement actions than during the entire 4 years of the Biden administration. Right. So we're going to have that kind of price transparency. I'm working with Linda on forcing medical schools. And the MCATs, the people who administer the MCATs, the people who do accreditations, to put nutrition into medical school education. Right now, 25% of the doctors in this country do not feel competent to give nutritional advice. 70% of diabetes cases can be reversed or ended if you just change people's diets, and the doctors don't know how to advise it. They only know how to prescribe the drugs. We're going to change that, so if you come out of a medical school under the Trump administration, you are going to know about diet. And then finally, most importantly, the Pete and Bobby Challenge. I want to give an update. I got 5 minutes and 48. It's 100 push-ups, 50 pull-ups, and you try to do it within 10 minutes. I got 5 minutes and 48 seconds. Pete beat me. I'm still bitter at that. 5 minutes and 25. The cabinet leader is Scott Turner.
You beat me.
Your arm.
That's
You got 5 minutes and 15 seconds. I'm waiting for reports from the rest of the cabinet. The only exemptions currently existing is if you can hit a 50 at Bedminster, which President Trump did with Bryson DeChambeau, so he's the only one exempt in this room. Everybody else.
That's great, Bobby. Bobby, autism, if I could, I don't want to go too long because we have a lot of people, but the autism is such a tremendous horror show, what's happening in our country and some other countries, but mostly our country. How are you doing on that?
We are doing very well. We will have announcements as promised in September. We're finding certain interventions now that are clearly, almost certainly causing autism. And we're going to be able to address those in September.
It's such a big day. I'm looking forward to that day because there's something wrong when you see the kind of numbers that you have today versus 20 years ago. And those numbers, what are those numbers, Bob?
Well, in 1970, the biggest epidemiological study in history was done in Wisconsin. They looked at 900,000 children, and they were looking for autism. They knew what it looked like. And they were very, very precise about it, and they found an incident rate of 0.7, in other words, less than 1 per every 10,000 children. Today, our most recent numbers are 1 in every 31 kids. It's probably actually much worse than that because California, which has the best collection system, is reporting 1 out of every 19 children, American children, has autism, 1 in every 12.5 boys. So it's gone from less than 1 in 10,000 in 1970 to 1 in 12.5 boys.
Think of those numbers. So there has to be something artificially causing this, meaning a drug or something. And I know you're looking very strongly at different things, and I hope you can come out with that as soon as possible.
We will.
So 1 in 10,000, and now it's 1 in 31 or 34 or 12 if it's a boy. Can you imagine that? 1 in 12. That's for a boy.
1 in every 12.5 boys.
It's not even believable that could be. And that was 1 in 10,000 not so long ago. I've been hearing these numbers, and they get worse and worse every year. There's got to be something. I think there's nothing, including favored nations and everything else, there's nothing that can be, if you can find out the reason that that's happening, and I know we're gonna do some things. I think we maybe know the reason, and I look forward to that press conference, to be with you on that press conference. That's going to be a great thing. Thank you, Bob. You're doing a great job. Linda, how about it? And we want nothing less than $500 million from Harvard. Don't negotiate, Linda. They've been very bad. Don't negotiate. Go ahead.
All that's working well. Mr. President, thank you very much. Since we are focusing today on Labor Day, and I know that Kelly and Lori are both going to echo some of the things that I'll say as well. We are really focusing, on our workforce. But what I'm finding with great joy around the country is that states really are being innovative and working more with middle schools and with high schools to make sure that we are having hands-on learning. There are pathways to jobs that are happening now. And if we see more and more of our community colleges working with our middle schools and our high schools so that high school students are graduating not only with a diploma, but a certificate that they have worked with, perhaps with a Toyota or another company that is coming in, public-private partnerships. And they're learning on the job so that when they graduate from high school, they're ready to go into the workforce, because we know with all of these wonderful jobs that are coming back into the country through AI, through just our normal jobs, we need electricians, HVAC operators, etc. If we don't have this training, we're not going to have the workforce we need for all these wonderful jobs. So governors are really excited about this prospect. I've been now to several states and visited community colleges and tech schools with governors, and they're just all on board for getting this done. I think it's one of the best things that we're hearing relative to the job market. So we're just kind of focusing on that for today.
So we're bringing education back to the states, to put it in a more simple fashion. We're going to let the states educate our children again. And, we're rated out of 40 countries, we're 38, 39, or 40. So obviously, it's not working what they've been doing for the last 30, 40 years. And if you go back, the best are like Norway, Denmark, Sweden, some of the other, Finland, they're very highly rated. If you go back to just take a look at anything you want to do, you just look at us in the past. If we gave Iowa or gave Indiana or gave, and I don't say every one of them, a guy like Gavin Newsom's not going to do well. Certain states won't do well. But even California, you cut it up into sections. You have Riverside, you have this, you have that. You cut it into 5 sections. And, if you had a good governor, you'd be able to do well. But certain states will be able to compete with Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and everyone. It'll be just as good. So I figure you have close to 40 of those states. Mm-hmm. And then you'll have 10, you'll have 5 that won't be very good. You have 5 disasters, and we'll have to work on those disasters. But for the most part, we will have education that will go zooming up in those charts, just like we have in everything else we've done. And I think it's one of the most important things we're doing at this table. So bringing education
back to the states where you have the parents running it, where you have the school boards that are local. We have people running from Washington that have never even been to the state that they're in charge of. They've never even been there, and I don't think they care about it. So we want to close up the Washington buildings, sell the buildings off, let somebody else get rich with the real estate, because it'll be a crime-free city. By the way, speaking of that, anybody murders something in the Capitol, capital punishment, capital punishment. If somebody kills somebody in the Capitol, Washington, D.C., we're going to be seeking the death penalty. And that's a very strong preventative. And everybody that's heard it agrees with it. I don't know if we're ready for it in this country, but where you have it, it is, we have no choice. So in D.C. and Washington, states are going to have to make their own decision. But if somebody kills somebody, like you could have been killed, very lucky you didn't get killed, it's the death penalty, okay? Fantastic job you're doing. Thank you, Linda. Very much appreciated. How are you doing with the colleges, by the way? You're doing some pretty good work in terms of getting them to treat people fairly.
Well, interestingly enough, since we've been negotiating with some of the Ivy League schools, I have presidents of universities calling every single week. They want to sit down and talk to us about all of the steps that they are taking, because they would like to not come under the same investigative program, and so it is having its desired effect.
That's great.
So if you fire a shot across the bow, the big guys, people kind of step in line and know you mean business, and we have teeth in these agreements, and I'm proud of the work that we're doing there.
Well, they misbehaved, and some of these schools are getting billions and billions of dollars, and they misbehave, so that's it. And so one way or the other, we're going to win that whole thing. It's going to straighten them out. Okay? Thank you. Great job. Lee, please.
Mr. President, the Trump EPA has a special Labor Day message to America's workforce, especially our auto workers, our coal miners, our steam fitters, our pipe fitters, and the list goes on. See what a difference a year makes. A year ago, the way that the Environmental Protection Agency was operating, the choice was made to protect the environment. We would have to strangulate the economy. That's the way that the EPA operated for years. There was a binary choice. We had to choose one or the other. The Trump EPA completely rejects that. See, we choose to protect the environment and grow the economy. And a very special shout out to Russ Vogt and his team at the Office of Management and Budget. We give him a lot of work. He's happy to do it. Dozens of different deregulatory actions. We just announced a proposed rescission of the 2009 Obama EPA endangerment finding, all of the light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicle regulations that followed. It is the single largest deregulatory action in the history of the United States government. And when you add up the dozens of different actions that we have announced and that we're working through, in one agency in 1 year, we'll do more deregulation than entire federal governments have done across all agencies, across entire presidencies. And what we are accomplishing would not be possible if not for the support of the rest of this team you've assembled around this table. The well-oiled, well-wired machine at the White House, led by Susie Wiles, and the DCOSP, the policy shop, led by Stephen Miller, they have been amazing to work with. I was just in Iowa with Administrator Loeffler, who made an announcement with Secretary Rollins to reverse the deratement on diesel exhaust fluid systems. Mr. President, you said you wanted water flowing faster. Working with the Secretary of Energy, we've done our part to do that, to get gas cans flowing faster, to stop that annoying start-stop feature in vehicles. See, people out there might say, well, why are you focused on all of these little things? If it's little to you, it doesn't mean that it's not a very big deal for millions of other Americans. The charge was clear when you called me in November and you asked me to do this job. Clean air, land, and water for all Americans. Unleash energy dominance. Advance cooperative federalism, permitting reform. Make America the AI capital of the world. Bring back American auto jobs. What we are accomplishing now, again, wouldn't be possible if not for your leadership. I'm grateful to the American people for electing you and our amazing Vice President. I was just in Mexico City announcing and signing on behalf of the Trump administration an agreement with Mexico for a permanent solution for the Tijuana River sewage crisis, which you have been so outspoken and passionate about in our conversations. It would not be possible if not for Secretary Rubio, Deputy Secretary Landau, U.S. Ambassador to Mexico Johnson. The team at the State Department has been incredible. The work with the NEDC on permitting, to be able to get new pipelines built, to get new factories started. The list, it's amazing. You know, somebody out there might not realize the relationship between the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Defense. The amount of work with Secretary Hegseth and the Army Corps, from responding to the LA wildfires, to getting more water flowing in California, which is also something that Secretary Burgum is involved with, to helping the farmers, the ranchers and landowners to revise the waters of the United States definition so they don't have to go hire an attorney or consultant to tell them whether or not a water on their property is subject to federal regulation. Thank you for putting this entire team together. It's an honor to be at the Trump EPA, where we choose to both protect the environment and grow the economy. It's a very happy Labor Day for America's workforce.
And Lee, in Los Angeles, if you could, because of the fires, Lee was there, and as you know, we have very strict federal rules having to do with the rebuilding of those houses. And Lee was able to get the approvals done for everybody immediately. It was so fast, nobody could believe it. And the mayor and the governor still haven't gotten them their approvals. And they're going to have riots out there for that reason. These are great homeowners. They want to build their house. They can't get approved because you have the mayor, Bass, who has no idea what she's doing. And you have a governor who is such a bad governor. And the people are unable to build their house. The toughest permit to get was the federal permit by far. And yet he got them all in a short period of time after the fire. How long did it take?
Well, Mr. President, you came in, signed an executive order, and told the EPA that we had less than 30 days to complete our hazardous material removal, which the initial response, once all of our heart rates went down a bit, was just to figure out how to get it done. We got it done in just less than 30 days. The Army Corps of Engineers then comes in for the debris removal. The federal government, in clearing over 13,000 properties that were destroyed because of these wildfires. We've got to the point today where property owners all across Los Angeles, they're grateful to the Trump administration. They're happy that we did our part, but they are desperate to rebuild. And there is not a single green light approval that they are waiting for from the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers proudly have done our work. It's important for those local officials to let these property owners build on their land. It's their property. It doesn't belong to the mayor of Los Angeles. And they need to represent their people better. They're ready to build.
When will they have their permits from Los Angeles?
Well, here's the problem, Mr. President, is that they have been ready since the moment we were done with the federal part. I mean, I was visiting a week after. Actually, I thought my first trip was going to be to Los Angeles. However, the moment I got confirmed, the vice president said, "You're going to East Palestine right away." So that actually ended up being the first visit because the vice president's so passionate about that from the great state of Ohio. Then we went to Los Angeles from there. We're talking about the beginning of February, where we were meeting with property owners already. They were already all set up. They had the contractors. It was the beginning of February, and they were waiting for green lights from Los Angeles to be able to go onto their property and start rebuilding. Some of the same people who were waiting for a green light ready with the contractors at the beginning of February are still waiting now in the middle of August. Let these Californians rebuild.
And they're talking about also taking away some of the properties and building low-income housing on those properties. They're going to have problems like they've never had before. These people don't know what they're doing. So we have all our permits. Everything the federal government has to do was done long ago. They should have been. I went to a town hall with Lee, but we were
there, and the mayor was saying it would take 2 years, maybe 3 years to get this approved. I said, no, not 2 years, 2 days. They should have it in 2 days. And I toured the site, and I met 100 homeowners, all standing in front of this site a couple of days after the fire, and they were ready to go right then. They wanted to just build right then. And the city won't let them do it. Los Angeles, I don't think it's that they won't. I think they're incompetent, okay, to be honest with you. I think they just don't know how to go about it. It is so badly run by Newsom and by Mayor Bass. Mayor Bass, she was in Africa during the fire. She knew the fire was starting to rage, and she decided to take a trip to Africa. These people are they're just bad. You know, you talk about make America great again. They could never make America great again, but we are doing that. Congratulations, you found some interesting things, Tulsi. She's becoming a bigger and bigger star every day. She found a lot of good things. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. As we approach Labor Day weekend here, this is just such a great opportunity really to recognize your leadership as a true champion for working people. And I know we'll hear, as we go around the table here, how your focus singularly on putting the well-being and interests of the American people first is that common thread that we're seeing in your policies being implemented across your administration. For ODNI, number one, our focus is and must always be making sure that our intelligence community is focused on our mission, keeping the American people safe, secure, and free. We're doing great work on this front. I'll point out our National Counterterrorism Center, led by Director Joe Kent, are working across different agencies with Homeland Security, DEA, FBI, and others to catch terrorists, both those who are trying to come into our country, those who may already be in our country. They are finding the worst of the cartel bosses and making sure that they're not able to continue to wreak havoc and terror in our communities. Secondly, Mr. President, you have charged me with the mission of finding the truth and telling the truth to the American people. And we've exposed some of the worst examples of the weaponization of intelligence in the last several weeks. I will continue down that mission and that path wherever it leads. Transparency, telling the truth is what will drive true accountability for the American people who deserve nothing less. And lastly, Mr. President, all of us are charged with being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. I've gone through a reorganization for ODNI that we've announced in the last week. We've cut nearly half of redundant, unnecessary functions within ODNI, saving taxpayers over $700 million a year. We will continue focusing on our core mission in keeping the American people safe, and appreciate your leadership and your focus on this most critical task.
And you've also found many bags of information. I think they call them burn bags. They're supposed to be burned and they didn't get burned, having to do with how corrupt the 2020 election was. And when will that all come out?
Mr. President, I will be the first to brief you once we have that information collected. But you're right, we are finding documents literally tucked away in the back of safes in random offices, in these bags and in other areas, which again speaks to the intent of those who are trying to hide the truth from the American people and trying to cover up the politicization that was led by people like John Brennan and James Clapper and others that have caused really immeasurable harm to the American people and to our country.
Great job. Thank you. We look forward to hearing it. The public looks forward. Thank you very much. Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, everyone knows there's no stronger advocate for hardworking American families than you, sir. Thank you for the largest tax cut in American history for working families. The average family of four is going to save about $10,000 take-home pay more a year. And what we're seeing is an increase in the child tax credit, the increase in the standard deduction. Hardworking families are going to benefit from this bill, and small businesses. There's no bigger beneficiary than Main Street, because small business makes up 99% of all businesses in this country. I've traveled to nearly half of our states, 24 unique states. I've made 40 state visits. In fact, I was with our great vice president at a small business manufacturer in Georgia last week. I was with a trucking company in Ohio. I was in Michigan at a motorcycle manufacturer. The return of Made in America is going to be driven by small businesses, because 98% of all of our manufacturers in America are small and medium businesses, 600,000 factories that employ 5 million people. And as Secretary McMahon mentioned, this work-based learning that is going on in professional and trade schools is real. I've visited them from Utah to Maine to Georgia and seen this revolution in education happening. So small businesses need skilled labor. Now that you've solved for inflation, for the taxes, every Democrat voted for a $4 trillion tax increase on the backs of hardworking Americans. And so you prevented that. And now we've got fair trade. And thanks to Administrator Zeldin, we're seeing deregulation. I mean, this diesel exhaust fluid crushed farmers and construction and other heavy industry. So rolling that back makes a real difference for small business. And your domestic economic agenda is amplified through small businesses, which is why small business optimism is above its 53-year average, finally. Yeah. And so Main Street appreciates it. What Main Street wants now is a rate cut. They feel burdened by high interest rates. They would grow, hire, and expand more if they could, but the interest rates are really hurting them. And finally, I want to say thank you for your executive order on debanking. We're about to announce a major investigation on debanking. It happened to you and your family. It happened to me. It happened to thousands and thousands of Americans, and unfortunately, disproportionately on those that had conservative values, on Christians, on pro-life, on 2A businesses. And so we're going to be talking to the banks about that. The SBA operates the largest government business loan program in the federal government. We have a network of 5,000 banks, so we're going to be making sure that that never happens to anyone again.
Great job. You've done a great job. Thank you very much. Christy?
Well, Mr. President, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to work for you. And you committed when you ran for president to make America safe again. And today, the average family and individual that lives in this country is safer than they've been in years because of what you've done. We've got 3 months in a row now with 0 illegal aliens coming into this country, and I want to thank Pete and the Department of Defense for all of their help. They're down at the border with us still, helping us keep that border secure and make sure we know who's coming into this country. You've arrested and brought to justice hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens, criminals that have perpetuated violence against American people. Sir, you've had 1.6 million people voluntarily go home to their home countries that were here in this country illegally. Because of your strong message and you enforcing the law, they decided to go home on their own so that they could come back the right way someday and be American citizens. But what I think is one of the most remarkable statistics is that under Joe Biden's administration, 88% of new jobs went to foreign-born individuals. Under your administration, 2.5 Americans have jobs today that they didn't under the previous administration. And they have those jobs because you created opportunities. You made this country safe. You opened up the economy. You enforced the law. Now people can get up and provide for their families and go to work every day and be confident in that. And the last thing I would say is that it's incredibly important to know that every one of those illegal aliens that has gone home, they were costing us about $8,700 to $9,000 a piece in what they were taking out of our social programs, out of Social Security. You've saved this country billions of dollars, about $15 billion, just in what those illegal aliens were costing us in social programs. I've cut over 450 different contracts at the Department of Homeland Security. We're getting rid of corrupt ones that were not efficient for taxpayers, weren't focused on our mission of keeping us safe. And we've also renegotiated and brought in our biggest vendors that said you have to do better. And we've saved the taxpayers over $13 billion doing that as well. So we're continuing to be accountable to taxpayer dollars, but sir, focused on doing the mission of what you've committed, and that's to keep us safe and to make sure we put Americans first.
Well, great job, and great job on the border. We had millions and millions of people coming in. To think 3 months in a row, 0.
Incredible.
That's some job. Thank Tom and everybody, and Pete, good job. Not surprised. Thank you very much. Chris, please.
Chris. Sorry about that, Mr. President. Like Secretary Noem, I'm thrilled to be here to work with you on the simple platform you were elected on, which was to bring back the American dream. to bring jobs and opportunity for families across the country and to lower their costs so they can live their lives and expand the choices they have. You led off today talking about gasoline prices. I'll throw in diesel. If you correct for inflation, they're at multi-decade lows. This is a huge expense. This is a huge constraint on people's lives. We should celebrate that. Natural gas has become our main industrial fuel powering factories around the country. Natural gas prices are quite low in this country, and they're lower than in any country in the world. The reason for that is the United States produces 2 times more natural gas than the second largest natural gas producer in the world, and 4 times more natural gas than the number 3 and number 4 producers in the world. So you've opened up American opportunity and energy together with the work of Secretary Burgum, Administrator Zeldin, Secretary Lutnick, Secretary Rawlins. You know, we've made it easy to produce energy in America again, and those benefits are flowing. I could go on about this stuff forever, but let me talk about one specific area of energy, electricity. That's in the front of people's minds. When the day you were inaugurated, we get hold of all the data. We can look at the resource plans of utilities across the country. What you inherited when you arrived was a plan over the next 5 years to close 100 gigawatts of reliable electric generation. So that's 100 large power plants. Now that was offset with a plan to build 22 gigawatts of reliable electricity generation. Their plan was to close more than 4 times as much electricity generating capacity as they were going to build in that 5-year period. How do we lead the world in artificial intelligence if we're shrinking our supply of reliable electricity? How do we reshore steel and aluminum and automobiles and semiconductors and all those jobs Americans want back in our country when we're degrading and shrinking our energy system? We were going to hand that leadership to China in artificial intelligence, not just to our economic loss, but to our huge national security loss. Your team around this table, and almost everyone around this table is involved in it, is just to completely pivot dramatically. We're stopping the closure of all these plants way before their retirement date. Some plants get to their end of life. That's a small percent of the planned closures. Most of those were just political nonsense at the cost to American taxpayers. So we have rapid new construction of power plants under in the United States. We're doing everything we can with suppliers who build the equipment for these power plants. They've got to build their factories bigger to build power plants in America. People thought those days were past. We weren't going to build big things in America anymore. We're just going to keep sending it over to Asia and overseas and just buy other people's stuff. Totally nuts economically, totally nuts for national security, and of course crushing for working Americans, particularly Americans that work with their hands. But we are seeing a revitalization of those people, of that optimism. You showed that picture of that plant being built in Arkansas, dozens of those under construction, just in artificial intelligence. But the reshoring of steel, of aluminum, of plastics, of fertilizer, semiconductors, like this, America's the land of opportunity. How did we get to become this awesome nation? Because we believed in the American dream and we leaned in on it. But the wealthy in our country and the coastal elites that live away from where stuff's actually made, they just lost their way, and politicians just let them have it. Your tireless campaign and your relentless messaging made people realize the American dream isn't dead. It's just been smothered, and we're unsmothering it and setting it loose. God bless your efforts. God bless your assembly of this team around this table for bringing the American dream back.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, very much. Great job you're doing. Appreciate it. Lori, please.
Mr. President, everybody here who spoke works at the Department of Labor, clearly, which I love. They have all the correct talking points, but I think that's a testament again that we are all working together every single day. We talk to each other often, and the workforce, the skilled workforce, the education factor, retirees, it's been so important because they all touch the Department of Labor, and I have the opportunity to work with every single one. If you all haven't stopped by the Department of Labor, Mr. President, I invite you to see your big, beautiful face on a banner. in front of the Department of Labor, because you are really the transformational president of the American worker, along with the American flag and President Roosevelt, because we're bringing business and labor together. And I was so honored to unveil that yesterday, and everybody is taking note of that. You also mentioned crime, and I think it's been important for my colleagues to recognize that now American workers can return to work and feel safe. That business owners aren't shutting down their businesses because they're afraid they can't protect their workers, and now it's open for business again, and it's starting right here in our nation's capital. Many things have been mentioned about consumer confidence. Unemployment is holding steady, and more than 2 million net jobs for native-born Americans has been key under your leadership. 84% of the workforce and jobs has been produced by the private sector. I think that was the mission of this administration and the Department of Labor. And I will continue to say for a little bit longer, until I heard you today, the one big beautiful bill, because it equals one big beautiful workforce. And Congress passed this legislation. It probably will be the single most important bill that they did sign, because it is protecting our American workforce by expanding Pell Grants and childcare and reduction in taxes, so they can keep more of their hard-earned dollars. I am at the Department of Labor announcing $30 million in grants for our skilled workforce. That I have an MOU with Secretary McMahon. I have an MOU with Administrator Loeffler. That's important to share the data points on how important this is. In June, we awarded nearly $84 million in grants for the capacity of what? Registered apprenticeships, an executive order to have 1 million active apprentices across this nation, where we've already registered 185,000 since in the last few months. One of the other things that we have done is the Biden administration's guidance on cryptocurrency, and thanks to you and your leadership on that, we've rolled that back. And of course, we're going to see the 401k, the investors in our alternative assets. That's been key through the Department of Labor to work through. Partnering with our agencies, again, as I mentioned before, is important as we work together. I have visited, I'll be 31 states on my 50-state tour by the end of this month. I'm headed with Secretary Duffy, with the South Korean President Lee today, as we move through the shipbuilding. We will do that in Philly, and then I'm off to New England to talk to those states about how important the apprenticeship program is. But while I visited Hexel in Salt Lake City, 100% domestic carbon fiber for the Department of Defense as they produce. They are announcing another $1 billion investment per your executive order on advanced manufacturing. So it is working. Everything that you have been saying since you were elected and since we all can put into play has been working. Ohio, McDonald's is investing 375,000 new jobs. The shrimpers I visited as well, and they need our help in protecting that industry for our American fishermen and shrimpers. In Minnesota, I toured Cambria. When we're talking about quartz countertops, all made in America. And again, in Oregon, where we are expecting a crackdown. Thank you for what you are doing with your agents on ICE, and thank you for the prosecution that I hope you will come to Portland, Oregon, and crack down. But while there are still good people, I was able to visit Buckeye Pacific, really a trading floor for the timber industry. So we still want to focus on great, hardworking American businesses. Mr. President, I couldn't be more excited to ring in Labor Day in Erie, Pennsylvania for the Labor Day Parade. I will be there to welcome it. It is an honor to serve this country. It is an honor to serve under your administration as the Labor Secretary, and we will kick off, and Republicans will own Labor Day again, not Democrats. We will own it because we are, and you are the president of the American worker. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you very much, Lori.
Absolutely.
You're doing a fantastic job, and I will tell you that Lori was recommended by the Teamsters. And I said, that doesn't really work, does it? And it turned out to be one of our best choices. So I just want to thank you and Sean, who, as you know, recommended you very strongly. You've really turned out to be a gem. Thank you.
I was able to talk to the president on the phone the other day. He called and we visited, and he said, but I know that you were, you know, a little bit middle of the road and not so sure. I said, Mr. President, I have been a Republican. He's like, what? Wait, what? Now I like you even more. So,
You're doing a great
I
job.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pam?
President, I'm working with everyone around this table almost daily on legal issues that we're winning on. But today, because it's Labor Day, President Trump, if I could focus on public safety, not only domestic, but from our foreign adversaries. And Secretary McMahon, I know you know, kids are out of school this weekend. It's Labor Day. And Secretary Duffy, you know, our highways are going to be packed with travelers coming to not only our nation's capital, but all over this country. We're also going to have boaters, Secretary Duffy, right, on our waterways. It is illegal to be under the influence and on a boat. So get a designated boater if you're out on our waterways, whether it's the Potomac or the Gulf of America or the Pacific. Wherever you're out this weekend, people need to be safe. And on an international level, Secretary Rubio, thank you for all your help on everything we're doing, and everyone around this room. But yesterday, there was a big win. El Mayo pled guilty, and he was the co-founder of Sinaloa cartel with El Chapo. And there's even a Narcos Netflix series about these guys. Well, now we know the ending. He's going to die in an American prison. They are one of the worst, El Chapo and El Mayo, some of the worst narco traffickers in our world. And he will spend life in prison now. And that's so important because those guys and others throughout this country, throughout this world, have brought into our country drugs, cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, methamphetamines that's killing our kids. And we have to stop that. And that's what you've been doing not only in DC, but around the country at your leadership. And over the weekend, parents need to know, with kids out of school, with people out on our highways and on our waters, do not take a pill from anyone you know, don't know. Do not buy anything on the street. It could be laced with something toxic. We've seen so many fentanyl overdoses. And when you were here in DC, we showed you pictures of some of the drugs that had been seized right here in DC. President, they were packaged for children. Packaged for children. And people are dying from these around our country. So thank you, President Trump, for your leadership and for letting Americans know that it's now a safe place to go. But parents also have to know, college kids have to know, to be vigilant and not take this trash. Because you could be thinking you're taking a Xanax, an Adderall, anything, and it could be laced with something very lethal. So thank you, President
Great
Trump.
message,
Thank
and
you,
you've been
President.
fantastic this last 12 days in D.C. The job you and your whole group has done is,
All of us.
everyone's talking about it all over the world. I hate to have to talk about that, but we have to. It's becoming a very safe place again, and the work, I've seen how hard you worked from the beginning, in all fairness, but this focus on D.C. is so important for the country, so great job, and to everybody.
And President, it's a team around. We're all working hand in hand, side by side, all of our agencies together to make America safe and DC safe. And Iris, congratulations on your baby, and I'm so glad that you're safe now.
Thank you, Pam, very much. Mr. VP, would you like to say something?
Yes, sir. I'll be brief, but I want to congratulate you and the entire team on all the things that have been accomplished. You'll hear about a lot of it. You've already heard some of it, but I thought it would be helpful, Mr. President, just to take stock, not just of what we've accomplished, what we will accomplish, but of the mess that we inherited, because I think it makes this first Labor Day a bigger and more special occasion. You heard, I think, Christie talk about this, that all of the net job growth under the Biden administration had gone to the foreign-born. Now that net job growth is going to American citizens who deserve opportunity in their own country. That's a great accomplishment. You'll hear, I'm sure, Scott talk about the success with tariffs. People forget that we inherited the largest peacetime deficit in the history of the United States of America. And now, because the president is not letting foreign countries take advantage of us, we're collecting hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars over 10 years in tariffs from countries and companies that were formerly taking advantage of the American people. You heard Pam talk about the public safety and the success that we've had there. I happen to believe that maybe the most sacred thing that we can deliver to American workers is the ability to live safely and comfortably in their own neighborhoods. Public safety is not just something that should belong to the wealthy. It should belong to every working man and woman in the United States of America. And because of the work of this administration, that is happening. And of course, Mr. President, you yourself talked about the inflation mess that we inherited under the Biden administration. Maybe the most striking and even shocking statistic of the Biden administration is that housing costs have gone up by 100% over the 4 years of the Biden administration, literally doubled, making the American dream of homeownership unaffordable. We've made great strides and great progress already. But to the American people who are listening, there's a lot more to do. We're going to keep on working hard at it, but it's an honor to do this job under the president's leadership and with this very great team that you've assembled. So we've done a lot, but there's a lot more work to do, and we're very cognizant of it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, JD. Scott?
Sir, as we've said very often, economic security is national security, and our country has never been so secure thanks to you. You have brought us back from the edge. You have the overwhelming mandate from the American people. You're restoring confidence in government, a topic that is on the front of everyone's mind, the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve's independence comes from a political arrangement between itself and the American public. Having the public's trust is the only thing that gives it credibility. And you, sir, are restoring trust to government. You are weeding out the waste, fraud, and abuse, and the old ways of doing things are not good enough. We are seeing a blue-collar boom. In the first 7 months of your administration, real blue-collar wages have taken off. And the only other time that they've done this in the past 70 years was in your previous term. Your efforts on tax, trade, and deregulation have boosted paychecks for American workers while slowing the pace of inflation and lowering the cost of energy. Inflation has plummeted to just 1.9% since you took office, and the economy rebounded with real GDP surging 3% last quarter. The blue-collar boom coincides with a CapEx comeback. In anticipation of your one big beautiful bill becoming law, CapEx increased by American businesses by nearly 14% in the first half of this year. And as you and I talk about frequently, and as that chart or that photo attests, we are going to see, I believe, a bigger CapEx boom from here. This is just the beginning, just the beginning. You have saved this country by making it the best place in the world to do business again. Treasury is helping to implement these new provisions, as well as no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security. This weekend, I will be meeting with workers from local restaurants to discuss the positive impacts of the pro-labor reforms on no tax on tips. And I have to tell you, thanks to you, when I go into a restaurant or stop by a hotel doorman, I am the most popular person there. And since my first job at age 9 was as a busboy getting tips, I am going to spend Labor Day going from restaurant to restaurant talking to workers who receive substantial amount of tip income. So I'll hear directly from them how your one big beautiful bill is increasing their take-home pay and making a big difference. Now, we can also talk, that is domestic. On the international front, you have leveled the international trading system whereby countries took advantage of us, and that's over. It's over. The Treasury Department is taking in record tariff revenues that I had been saying was running at a rate of $300 billion a year. You chastised me for saying that it's not, that number is too low. And as usual, you're right, that we had a substantial jump from July to August. And I think we're going to see a bigger jump from August to September. So I think we could be on our way well over $500 billion, maybe towards the $1 trillion number. This administration, your administration, has made a meaningful dent in the budget deficit. The average budget deficit during this term is 26% less than the last 12 months under Biden. And even the CBO, and we don't agree with CBO on everything, as you said, last Friday, on a summer Friday, had to admit that they believe over the next 10 years, the budget deficit will be $4 trillion lower than they had previously scored. $4 trillion, 3.3 trillion of tariff income, $700 billion of lower interest cost, and I would expect that that number could go up from here. So, Mr. President, your return to the White House marked the return of the American worker. Thank you for reclaiming Labor Day for the American people. You're growing the economy for everyone, especially the middle and lower income households who suffered disproportionately under the last administration, and it's an honor to do this under your leadership.
Great job. You're doing great. Thank you very much, Scott. Brooke?
Sir, I dropped my second son off at college last week. And I wasn't planning to say this, but just listening to everybody, I wanted to put a little bit of a personal touch on this work. He started his freshman year yesterday at Texas A&M, for all my SEC friends in the room. Thank you for saving college football, by the way. We're all very grateful. The country just feels different. It just feels different. There's such a optimism and a love. There's a faith movement going through, especially with our younger Americans. And for those of us with kids in college, I know we feel it. And I experienced it firsthand last week, moving him and my other older son in as well. As we move toward Labor Day, you have made a lot of dreams come true for a lot of people, but one of my longtime dreams was for the right to recapture Labor Day. And I've been talking about this for almost 20 years and writing about it, that why are we ceding the day that we are celebrating the American worker to the Democrats? Because this is our day. Perhaps of any day of the entire year, this is our day. America was founded and fought for by fishermen and farmers and workmen and et cetera. The Genesis, the first book of the Bible, talks about the righteousness of work and the art of creation. And so to be part of this effort to represent the farmers, the ranchers, the agriculture industry at this moment in time, which I do believe we're in a revolution. 1776 was the first one, 1863 or so with Abraham Lincoln was the second. This is the third with Donald Trump leading the way. And we are saving America. And the idea that we are putting the worker, the very central component of the American dream, at the center of it is the reason that it is so. So at USDA, it continues to be my greatest honor to fight for the original American worker, whom I think the farmer is and what they represent. And as we are building new systems and new structures, as we have this year going to have the best harvest on record for our row croppers and others, what this team has done and is doing to open up those markets to ensure that these farmers can continue to return prosperity to rural America. I'll finish with this. This morning, we had a working group with 6 of our cabinet members. Bobby Kennedy representing healthcare, Linda McMahon education, Lee Zeldin deregulation, Kelly Loeffler small business, Lori Chavez Rimmer labor, and Scotty Turner housing. And how you leading the way in your vision, how that will return the golden age to rural America, to the very fabric of our country. And whether it's better hospitals, better education, more opportunity, less government, better and bigger small businesses, better opportunities for our workers, and better housing, and of course the agriculture piece of that, through the big, beautiful bill, what it did, the greatest investment in rural America in history. And now the opportunity to effectuate that is, again, a game changer, a country saver, and what a joy to be able to do it under your leadership. So thank you, sir.
Really good. Thank you. Beautifully stated. Thank you very much. Scott?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm so grateful to be here to celebrate Labor Day with the greatest team in America. And it is football season, so I'm happy about that. But Mr. President, I want to say thank you for, as Brooke said, reclaiming Labor Day. And you've been a tremendous champion for the American worker. I come from a hard-working family, as many people around this table do. And so thank you for helping us to change the conversation. And I believe we are changing the conversation around the kitchen table. And as everybody knows, you know, my job is to steward HUD. And we have at HUD been very intentional about changing the conversation about the dignity of work and the dignity and the honor of family formation through work. and how the younger generation, when they see their parents work, how they're incentivized to work. And that, you know, America is not a welfare state, but America was built on small business. It was built on entrepreneurship. And so as it pertains to housing, we're being very focused on that, and even some that receive HUD funding to make sure, like our Section 3, when you receive HUD funding, that you are given opportunities for the most vulnerable Americans that you serve to have work, to have opportunities to work, to have work requirements. Work requirements are not a bad word, that's a great word. Time limits is a great word, to incentivize people, able-bodied, able-minded people to work. And I believe that we are, under your leadership, sir, changing that conversation in America to where working is an honorable thing. And Secretary Wright talked about revitalization. Revitalization means to bring new life. And I believe we're bringing new life to America, Mr. President, through work and through all the jobs that people are doing around this table. And with the One Big Beautiful Bill, the most extensive tax break in American history, opportunity zones are now made permanent. And you know how passionate I am, and you are too, sir, about opportunity zones. And so this will allow us to continue to build affordable housing around our country. And Mr. Vice President, I'm coming your way. I'm coming to Columbus later this week and to see how we can continue to build affordable housing in our country with opportunity zones. And you know, 1 million people, Mr. President, were lifted out of poverty because of opportunity zones. $90 billion of private money was invested in opportunity zones, urban, tribal, and rural. And now that they've been made permanent, we're looking for millions more to be lifted out of poverty, $100 billion to be invested, hundreds of thousands of jobs to be created, hundreds of thousands of units of housing to come online. And so, sir, I sit here very excited about the future of this country. I'm very proud to be at this table, humbled to do so. And HUD, we're on a good path. So thank you for all your support and helping us, sir.
Thank you very much.
God bless you.
And I want to give credit to Tim Scott, great senator from a place called South Carolina that we love, right? And Tim really came up with opportunity zones, and we did a good job of working with him, and together we created something that nobody speaks of very much, but it's probably the most successful thing that's ever been done of its kind. It's been amazing. So Tim Scott deserves a lot of credit for that. Thank you.